Chapter 409. Tower of Babel. Level 1. Your Majesty asked me to patrol the mountains, oh hoo. After patrolling the Nanshan and the North Mountain, oh hoo. Not long after Qin Daoxian entered the Tongtian Tower, the familiar shouting sound entered his ears. Hearing the familiar shouts, Qin Daoxian judged that the world in the Tongtian Tower was not the real fairyland. Or, the world in the Tongtian Tower is just a world similar to the fairy world created by the mysterious forces of the upper realm. Little Taoist priest, you're here to kill yourself again. The monster with a weird head and a human body shouted after seeing Qin Daoxian. You remember me? Qin Daoxian was not in a hurry. It seemed that this little demon remembered him. In this case, Qin Daoxian intends to provide more useful information to the other party. Who knows? The little demon in front of him ignored him, grabbed the iron stick in his hand and greeted Qin Daoxian's head. The opponent's speed is still as fast as ever. But Qin Daoxian has long been different from what it used to be. In his eyes, the attack that he couldn't even see a shadow and now was only faster in his eyes, and it was not far enough that he couldn't react. Qin Daoxian knew that it all depended on the enhancement of his consciousness. When he was in the Zifu period, his divine sense could only protrude a few meters out of the body, but now he can probe out a distance of several hundred meters. Although it is incomparable with the range of divine consciousness of more than 2,000 miles in Fengyun realm, the imitation here is the environment of immortal realm, and Qin Daoxian is not surprised by this. Good come. Qin Daoxian snorted softly. However, he applauded, but the figure suddenly retreated. Compared with the last time he couldn't fly when he broke through the sky tower, this time he was able to fly without light. Under Qin Daoxian's feet, the golden rule of action was concretized into a golden flying sword, carrying him back several miles like lightning. Missed in one hit. The little demon opposite Qin Daoxian shook his head in anger, and stomped his feet on the ground. Only heard a boom. The little demon's figure was like a shell out of its chamber, and it attacked directly towards Qin Daoxian. This speed is actually 3 points faster than his escape. Humph. Qin Daoxian snorted coldly. The index and middle fingers meet, pointing upwards. Immediately, the three immortal swords spun wildly around his 2 fingers. At the same time, Qin Daoxian frantically mobilized his mana, cast the world projection and the star kendo map, to suppress the opponent. Under the double suppression of the world projection and the star kendo map, the stature of this little monster's burst shot became slower and slower, until the stature completely stopped. You, what kind of magic are you casting? Seeing that Qin Daoxian couldn't control his figure, the little demon in front of him panicked. Qin Daoxian had a cold face. 3 feet in front of him, a giant golden fairy sword slowly condensed into shape. It is the giant fairy sword that Qin Daoxian concretized after combining the 3 laws of air, water and fire. Although this move has no name, it is one of Qin Daoxian's attack methods at this stage. If you don't want to die, I ask you answer. Qin Daoxian's face was cold. Hearing this, the little demon in front of him dared to talk nonsense, and immediately nodded. I ask you, where is this place? This is Lion Camel Ridge. Lion Camel Ridge? Qin Daoxian frowned immediately. Isn't this a fairyland? The little demon in front of him was stunned for a moment, and then he seemed to understand something and nodded immediately. Immortal Master, this is the realm of Shihan Youzhou, the land of the immortal world. Hear this. Qin Daoxian finally remembered who the little monster in front of him was. The little demon in the Shirtua Ridge in Youzhou, Shiha, the little diamond wind. It turns out that the immortal world in the mouth of the Taoist white-clothed is the Earth immortal world. Knowing this news, Qin Daoxian did not have the desire to continue talking nonsense, and directly manipulated the golden giant sword, slashing towards Xiao Zhanfeng with one sword. The giant golden sword light directly annihilated the little monster in front of him, causing the opponent to vanish into ashes. With the small drill wind, ashes vanished. The world in front of Qin Daoxian began to collapse little by little. But strangely, he wasn't hurt at all by the collapsed world in front of him. Illusion. Qin Daoxian frowned. However, if it's an illusion, how can I carry all the magic tools and use laws? Carrying the magic weapon and using the law is fine. What Qin Daoxian couldn't understand the most was that if it was an illusion, it was impossible for the golden scriptures in his sea of knowledge to not react at all. The only explanation is that the world in the Babel Tower is not an illusion. It is the real world. Shaking his head, Qin Daoxian thought too much. Because in front of him, another new world appeared. Before Qin Daoxian could take a closer look at this new world, a Taoist man in a blue gown appeared in front of Qin Daoxian. Looking closely, the Taoist in front of him was somewhat similar to Qin Daoxian. The second floor of the Babel Tower. Qin Daoxian knew immediately that he had passed the first floor and came to the second floor of Tongtian Tower. Qin Zhan fell on this floor and now it was Qin Daoxian's turn to break into this floor. It has been known before that this Tongtian Tower will not really kill the passers-by, but Qin Daoxian is relaxed. He cupped his hands towards the Taoist man in Xingyi in front of him and said, "Junior Qin Daoxian, please advise." The Taoist man in Xingyi nodded. Immediately he pointed his fingers together and immediately, 3 golden giant swords slowly took shape in front of him. Qin Daoxian was surprised to find that this was the move he had just used to kill Xiao Zhanfeng. It's just that he only used 1 golden giant sword just now, and the Taoist in Xingyi directly condensed 3. Moreover, Qin Daoxian could perceive that each of the 3 golden giant swords had more power than he wielded. 3 handles, fight. Qin Daoxian gritted his teeth and made a decision. Qin Daoxian wouldn't be so desperate if he didn't know that every time he passed through the first floor of the Tongtian Tower, there were corresponding benefits to be obtained. Because from the fact that the Taoist in Xingyi can easily use 3 golden giant swords, it can be seen that his avenue realm is far above Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian has come to this day, and the most commendable thing is that the realm of the Tao is far higher than that of the monks of the same level. But the Taoist in Xingyi in front of him clearly has the same cultivation level as him, but the Tao realm is much higher than him, and I don't know how many layers he has reached the world realm. This time, Qin Daoxian took out the 9 palaces array very simply. However, before he could set the formation down, the golden light pierced through his body. Okay, so fast. The golden giant sword that the Taoist in Xingyi used was several times faster than his. Whether it is the speed of the opponent's attack, or the speed of the sword light passing through his body. Die again. Outside the tower, Qin Daoxian's figure appeared instantly, with a wry smile on the corner of his mouth, and he was killed in seconds. Not far away, the Taoist man in white seemed to be accustomed to Qin Daoxian's complaints, not even a word of comfort, and the expression on his face was as cold as ever. Second floor of Tongtian Tower, not bad. After a light evaluation, the white-robed Taoist continued, according to the rules, if you don't pass through the first floor of the tower, you will have a chance to choose a treasure. Treasure? Qin Daoxian was stunned. Isn't it a secret method? The Taoist in white glanced at Qin Daoxian and said, treasures include secret techniques. Hear this. Qin Daoxian immediately realized that the news recorded by the Jiang family was not reliable. In the jade slip that Jiang Qingye gave him, it was clearly recorded that there would be a secret reward for breaking through the Tongtian Tower. But when it came to the Taoist in white, it was a treasure reward. The difference is huge. To be honest, Qin Daoxian is not too jealous of secret magic rewards. The reason is that he has the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. Is there any secret method in this world that can be more powerful than the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic? The treasure reward is different. Treasure rewards include physical objects. For example, the Star Sword Dao map in Qin Daoxian's hand is a treasure that he obtained when he broke into the first floor of Tongtian Tower. Of course, treasures are not just magic weapons, but also various spiritual roots of heaven and earth, and even the 9th turn golden elixir that can soar in the daytime after eating one. The scope of the choice of the user is much larger than that of the secret method. Qin Daoxian didn't know why Jiang Jiayu only recorded the secret method, but never mentioned the treasure. Seeing that Qin Daoxian did not speak, the Taoist in white introduced himself. For the testers who explain the inheritance trial, the more layers of the tower, the richer the rewards. Look, this is the reward for you to break through the first floor of the tower, choose the same. Say it. The Taoist in white waved his hand, and the next moment, a screen of light appeared in front of Qin Daoxian. In the light curtain, countless items floated in the air. Qin Daoxian looked around and there were all kinds of treasures including elixir, spiritual roots of heaven and earth, magic tools and various secret methods. For a time Qin Daoxian lost his eyes. That is, among the many treasures, Qin Daoxian actually found a seedling of Saint Yuan fruit. This thing is called Xingyuan fruit tree, but it's just a dead root. The Taoist man in white shook his head. Dead roots. Qin Daoxian showed a pity look on his face. No wonder Qin Zhan broke through the first floor of Tongtian Tower, but did not choose this thing, it turned out to be a dead root. The Xingyuan fruit tree is the top spiritual root of the Phoenix meteor realm. Although Qin Daoxian does not know how many steps the Xingyuan fruit tree of the Taiyin sect has reached, it is conservatively estimated that this spiritual root is probably above the 7th rank. This kind of spiritual root of rank, let alone possessed by ordinary forces, is that they dare not even think about it. When it comes to the most valuable treasure to a power, it must be a high-grade spiritual root. Qin Daoxuan's Dao realm is far higher than his cultivation. But among the top forces, cultivators like Qin Daoxian are rare. Why? Because for the top forces in the Phoenix Meteor realm, unless the monks deliberately suppress their cultivation, as long as they reach the realm of the Great Tao, they can borrow foreign objects to quickly improve their cultivation. Xingyuan fruit is a kind of foreign object to quickly improve cultivation, but it is by no means the only one. In fact, the elixir used by ordinary monks to assist cultivation is also a treasure that can quickly improve cultivation, but the effect is far less perverted than Shengyi Wangguo. Qin Daoxian learned that the Xingyuan fruit tree in the light curtain was a dead root, so he stopped paying attention to it. A dead root with a rank of 7th or higher, Qin Daoxian has not yet had the ability to revive it, so he is simply out of sight and out of mind. Qin Daoxian guessed that Qin Zhan was probably just as troubled as he was at the beginning. As he turned his attention to other items, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but feel a little headache because he didn't know most of the items in the light curtain. Don't tell me many of them haven't even heard of it. In this way it is also called how Qin Daoxian chooses. At this moment he finally understood why the reward recorded in the Jianghu slip was a secret technique. Because all the testers who have passed through the Tongtian Tower, I am afraid they have chosen the secret method instead of the treasure. As for the reason, everyone does not know these treasures how to choose. Qin Daoxian glanced at the white-clothed Taoist, and found that the other party did not mean to introduce at all. He immediately knew in his heart that if he chose to reward this link, the Taoist in white could not give any hints. Seeing that Qin Daoxian was silent for a while, the Taoist man in white said slowly, "No matter what choice a person makes, the first thing to do is to analyze himself." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian suddenly felt a sense of empowerment. He immediately bowed to the white-robed Taoist and said respectfully, "Thank you for your advice, senior." The Taoist man in white closed his eyes and wandered the heavens. Analyze yourself. What does Qin Daoxian lack the most? Cultivation. Qin Daoxian is far behind the Dao realm, whether it is qi cultivation or body cultivation. Taking Qin Daoxuan's Dao realm on the second floor of the world realm is enough to try to break through the primordial spirit stage, and his qi refining is only in the late Jindan stage. As for the cultivation of the body, it has to be described as appalling. Although Qin Daoxuan's strength is comparable to that of the real-world realm, he has never dared to fight with any real-world realm in close combat, because his body is too fragile. Against the top true monarchs, Qin Daoxian can also use the higher avenue realm and 6th order spirit armor to bully each other. But to compete with the true monarch of the world realm, Qin Daoxian may not be able to gain the upper hand whether it is realm or magic weapon. At this time, it depends on the solid foundation of the two sides to compete. Compared with mana, compared with divine consciousness, compared with flesh and so on. And among these three, Qin Daoxian has no advantage compared with the true monarch of the world realm. Especially the flesh. Qin Daoxuan's physical cultivation has only reached the skull-shattering stage, which is similar to many cultivators who have just broken through the Jindan stage. This kind of body refinement cultivation level cannot even reach the average level of a cultivator at the Jindan stage, let alone compared with the true monarch Yuaning. Skull-shattering realm, blood-dropping realm, integrating indestructible true meaning, condensing indestructible real body. The realm of the four-layer physical body, the first layer is more difficult than the first layer, and the first layer is 10 times stronger than the first layer physical body. It is also a blessing that there is a magic weapon such as spirit armor in Fengyin realm, otherwise Qin Daoxian really dare not say that he will definitely be able to beat the top true monarch. Because his physical body is too fragile and without spiritual armor to protect his body, he also cannot withstand the attack of the top true monarch. Think of this. Qin Daoxian finally knew what he wanted. He raised his head, looked at the Taoist man in white and said, "Senior, I want a secret method." "It is good." The Taoist in white waved his hand again, and most of the treasures in the light curtain disappeared, leaving only 13 secret techniques left. Qin Daoxian looked at the 13 jade slips in front of him, and suddenly got into trouble. He cupped his hands and said, "Senior, can you let this junior check on one or two?" "Can, thank you, senior." Sure enough, as he guessed, this upper realm force must benefit the tester, and it must be aimed at cultivating the opponent. If you can't watch it, then the tester has chosen the wrong one. Isn't it a waste of the opponent's training opportunity? With the approval of the Taoist priest in white, Qin Daoxian stopped talking nonsense, and focused on reading the 13 jade slips in front of him. 7017K. Chapter 410. Practice Qigong Method, Escape Technique, Golden Rainbow Technique, Practice Magic Method. 13 jade slips, Qin Daoxian kept checking them one by one. When he saw the divine cultivation technique, he paused slightly but quickly skipped it. Because Qin Daoxian already possessed a powerful mysterious method of refining Shanhai chapter, and if he guessed correctly, Shanhai chapter was a small part of a powerful cultivation method. Qin Daoxian has now obtained 2 articles of this exercise, Shanhai chapter and Dividing Sea chapter. Among them, the Shanhai chapter is responsible for condensing the consciousness, and the Divine Sea chapter can continuously divide the thoughts of the monks. Although Qin Daoxian didn't know what the ultimate effect of splitting his thoughts was, he just told him that this was definitely not a purposeless act. Whether it's Shanhai or dividing the sea, it should be the part that lays the foundation for this powerful technique. Therefore, Qin Daoxian just glanced at the divine cultivation method in front of him and quickly gave up on it. Compared with the divine exercises and the Qigong exercises, what Qin Daoxian lacked the most was the physical exercises. To this day, Qin Daoxian's body training method is still dragon python swallowing heaven. Although when I bought this practice method at the Guang'an House auction, I boasted that it was a top-notch body training method. But in fact, its function is similar to that of the vast body training exercises, which are to improve the body training by consuming a lot of resources. Body refining requires a lot of resources, but Qin Daoxian doesn't care much. Whether it is high-level Lingmi, blood crystal, or even blood marrow, Qin Daoxian has a lot of inventory in his hands. However, Qin Daoxian believes that Wan Xinghai's body training method has a drawback, that is, the training speed is slow. Of course, the speed of cultivation here is slow, which refers to the comparison with his entry into the Dao realm. For other monks in Wan Xinghai, the only drawback of the body training method is that it consumes too much resources. As for the speed of body training, it is much faster than Qi training. The reason why Qin Daoxian lags behind in physical cultivation is because his Dao realm is progressing too fast. Even with the slow progress of Qi refining, with the help of Yuan Qi essence and Xing Yuan Gua, they reached the late stage of Jin Dan and walked in front of the body refining. In comparison, it seems that Qin Daoxian's body refinement is progressing very slowly. But in fact, Qin Daoxian's current body training is the speed of a normal cultivator. In just a few decades, the body refinement cultivation level has risen all the way to the skull-smashing realm equivalent to the Purple Palace period. This speed is already very exaggerated. It's just that compared to Qin Daoxian's Qi refining in Dao realm, it seems to be slow. Found it. Finally, when Qin Daoxian flipped through the 9th jade slip, he found the body training method he wanted. Dutian Demon God's True Body. Qin Daoxian was shocked by the name of this body training method. It is rumored that Pangu opened the sky and his blood was transformed into the 12 capital heavenly demon gods, that is, the legendary 12 ancestors. The real body of Dutian demon god refers to the real body of the ancestor witch of the 12 ancestral witch. This exercise is a powerful exercise created by the immortal monks imitating the demon body of the 12 ancestral witch. When he read the general outline of this body training method, he immediately decided to choose it. Senior, I choose this method. Qin Daoxian pointed to the jade slip that recorded the true body of the Dutian demon god. It is good. The Taoist man in white nodded, waved his sleeves, and the other 12 jade slips disappeared in an instant, leaving only this Duotian demon god real body. Qin Daoxian took this body training method tremblingly, and in front of the Taoist man in white, he immersed all his consciousness into it. A long time. Qin Daoxian raised his head slowly, and the expression on his face was a little ugly. Is this practice incomplete? Certainly crippled, the Taoist man in white has a dull expression. The complete, Dutian demon god real body, can be cultivated into the supreme ancestor Wu's real body. The body of the ancestor Wu is so powerful that even the sage master can't compare. Do you think you are qualified to meddle with this level of practice? Hear this explanation. Qin Daoxian's face looked much better. What is worthy of consolation is that this practice is more powerful than he imagined, and he can actually cultivate into the body of the devil. You know, in the ancient flood period, the 12 ancestors of the witch race, with their terrifying physical cultivation, even once occupied the status of the protagonists of the world, and even the saints dared not compete with the 12 ancestral witches who joined forces. If Qin Daoxian can really get the complete exercise of Dutian demon god real body, I am afraid that he will doubt the authenticity of this exercise. Now that he has obtained the incomplete Dutian demon god real body, he is looking forward to it. Because Qin Daoxian knows that since this mysterious fairyland force can come up with this practice when the monks break through the first floor of Tongtian Tower, it proves that they must have a follow-up practice. After all, This immortal power has placed inheritance trials in the endless immortal realm to select and train disciples. Naturally, it is impossible for them to create obstacles on the path of cultivation for monks who may become their disciples. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian had no resistance at all in his heart. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. Qin Daoxian cupped his hands. Junior still needs to comprehend the exercises, so I won't disturb the senior. Go. The face of the white-robed Taoist remained calm. He waved his sleeve lightly and Qin Daoxian felt the world spinning for a while. The next moment, his consciousness returned to the cave dwelling in the demonic ape mountains. Inside the cave, Qin Daoxian's consciousness returned, and he checked the Duqian demon god real body in the sea of knowledge and was completely relieved. He now knows why in the inheritance trials recorded by the Jiang family, the rewards mentioned are all exercises, not other treasures. Because in the eyes of these lower realms monks, the inheritance of exercises is the most precious thing. It is far more real than spiritual roots and other treasures that do not know their function. To understand this, Qin Daoxian no longer struggled. Right now, the most important thing for him is to improve his body training. His body training is too low. Qin Daoxian vaguely remembered that when he first entered the Wangxinghai inheritance trial space, the Taoist in white gave him the most advice on melee skills. In the past, melee combat also became Qin Daoxian's bottom-pressing method. But as his strength improved, his physical body began to lag behind his chi-refining cultivation base in Dao realm. At this time, not to mention melee combat became his means of pressing the bottom of the box. Qin Daoxian even avoided melee combat with other monks for a while because of his physical weakness. In order to cope with his weak physical body, Qin Daoxian had to drink poison to quench his thirst by raising the rank of spirit armor to make up for the lack of his physical defense. However, no matter how high the rank of spirit armor is, it cannot block the enemy's attack 100%, especially when the enemy's attack is strong enough. Although Qin Daoxian's comprehensive strength is comparable to that of the real monarch in the world, even if he wears a 6th order spirit armor, he does not dare to blindly resist the attack of the top real monarch. If it is Qin Zhan, if he is wearing Qin Daoxian's 6th order power spirit armor, it is estimated that the top true monarch's attack on him is like scratching his itch. This is the difference brought about by the physical disparity. This phenomenon, the later stage of cultivation, the more abrupt it becomes. The battle between Qin Daoxian and Jiang Qingye made him understand what the fighting style of the monks in the world is like, that is, the most violent melee. With the power of the world, the cultivator's physical strength has completely skyrocketed. Coupled with the blessing of the Avenue realm, even if Jiang Qingye is bare-handed, Qin Daoxian can hardly resist the opponent's attack with the help of the 7th order mid-level formation. At that time, if the other party also used a powerful magic weapon, Qin Daoxian might not even be able to stop the other party's move. Unlike the cultivators below the nascent soul stage who are still fighting in the Phoenix realm, the cultivators at the half-step Yuanshan stage and above, even if conflicts break out with each other, are basically resolved in the endless void. Because at the Yuanshan stage, under the blessing of the power of the world and the realm of the great Tao, the destructive power of their battles is many times stronger than that of the Yuanying stage. Once a monk of this level fights on a large scale in the Phoenix Meteor realm, it is bound to cause irreparable damage to the Phoenix Meteor realm. Before the monks ascended to the upper realm, the Phoenix Meteor realm was their foundation. This not only involves the issue of cause and effect. The primordial spirit cultivator starts a war in the Fengyun realm, and if it is not good, he will also commit public anger. Therefore, whether it was the battle between Yi Tianqi and Qin Zhan, or the gambling between Qin Daoxian and Jiang Qingye, there was a tacit choice to go to the endless void instead of Fengyun realm. The next day, the cave dwelling in the demonic ape mountains. With the blessing of 100-fold comprehension, Qin Daoxian finally completed the comprehension of Duqian demon god real body. This body training method, as the Taoist in white said, has unlimited potential. But unfortunately, this practice can only be practiced to the extent of condensing the indestructible real body at most. Condensing the indestructible real body is nothing to a world realm cultivator. Basically, all the monks who have reached the world realm of the Dao realm have successfully condensed the indestructible real body. But the difference between different immortal bodies is also very different. For example, the true monarch Ming Huang, who was beheaded by Qin Daoxian, although he also reached the threshold of condensing the immortal body, but the immortal body he has not yet condensed is too weak, so weak that even Qin Daoxian's Xingqian Kendo map can suppress the power. Can't stand it. You must know that although the top real monarch is also afraid of the world projection of the world realm real monarch, he will never be completely defeated by the other party's world projection. The world projection and the star kendo map are somewhat similar to domain instruments, and at most can only be used to suppress, in order to achieve the effect of weakening the opponent's speed and attack. It is almost impossible for a top true monarch to be directly suppressed by the world projection of the world real monarch. At least, there is no one in the world that Qin Daoxian has met who can do this, not even the arrogant Jiang Qingye of the Jiang family. In the Fengyun world, due to the different training methods of the monks, the immortal bodies condensed are not the same. For example, Qin Daoxian's previous practice of dragon python swallowing heaven. If you practice to the level of condensing the indestructible real body, you can condense an indestructible real body called the dragon python real body. The strength of this dragon python real body is estimated to be incomparable to the immortal real body that has not yet been condensed by Ming Huang Jinjuan. Since Qin Daoxian wants to condense the indestructible real body, he will definitely not choose this one. Speaking of the immortal body, Qin Daoxian had seized a total of 17 boxes of immortal true meaning condensed bodies from Jinyuan Jinjuan. An indestructible condensate shaped like a black diamond, extremely hard. But when it is absorbed by the cultivator's body, it will turn into a black smoke-like form. This kind of black smoke has no fixed shape and it can't even be touched. Once it is integrated into the cultivator's body, it can dramatically increase the strength of the cultivator's body, which is amazing. Although the cultivators of the Phoenix Meteor realm did not have a specific grade for the strength of different immortal bodies, they judged the strength of the immortal body by how much the immortal body was integrated into the immortal meaning. Generally speaking, even if the nascent soul cultivator condenses the weakest immortal body, he must absorb more than 1,000 black diamonds. The 17 boxes that Qin Daoxian seized from True Monarch Jin Yuan contained a total of 3,672 black diamonds, which was enough for a true monarch nascent soul to condense an immortal body. Of course, the immortal body condensed by merging 1,000 black diamonds into the flesh body is just the most common immortal body. For example, the dragon python swallowing heaven technique, practiced by Qin Daoxian, if you practice to the level of condensing the indestructible real body, it is estimated that you can only condense this level. With Qin Daoxian's ambition, naturally he would not choose to condense such a low-level immortal body. If he condenses this kind of indestructible true body, wouldn't it be inferior to even true monarch Ming Huang? Therefore, even if he did not obtain the Duqian demon god real body, in the inheritance trial space, he would find a way to change the body training method. It is impossible for Qin Daoxian to be careless when it comes to cultivation. Qin Daoxian will not give up each of these three cultivation bases: body refining, qi refining, and spiritual refining. Facts have also proved that with the improvement of cultivators, the three cultivations may be preferred, but even the one that high-level monks are the least good at is much stronger than the one that low-level monks are best at. Because of the latter, if a cultivator wants to improve his cultivation, whether it is mana, spiritual consciousness, or physical body, he needs to meet a certain standard. This Duqian demon god real body actually has to imitate the ancestral witch demon god when condensing the indestructible avatar. Qin Daoxian kept looking at an ancestral witch and demon in the records of the exercises. Dijiang, Jumong, Zhurong, Shosho, Gonggong, Xianming, Hutu, Qiangliang, Zijian, Tianwu, Shizi, and Shibishi, a total of 12 ancestral witches and demons are available for cultivation. User's choice. It's just that once a cultivator chooses a body of an ancestral witch and demon god, he can't continue to change it, and he can only continue to practice this one in the future. At least as far as Qin Daoxian's deity is concerned, it can only be so. For more than a day, Qin Daoxian looked at the bodies of all the ancestors. Finally, he turned his attention to Zhu Rong's body. Because according to the introduction in The Real Body of the Demon God of Dutian, the first step in the cultivation of this Zhu Rong's body is to master the power of fire. The fire here is not the fire control technique mastered by monks. Instead, use the flesh as the oven and use the blood essence as the fuel to ignite the fire of the devil. The biggest function of Zhu Rong's body is refining. It can be seen from the introduction in The True Body of the Demon God of Dutian, that if a cultivator is successful in cultivating Zhu Rong's body, he can easily refine various resources to help the cultivator improve his body training. What does this mean? Practice speed. What Qin Daoxian lacked the most was the speed of cultivation. If he can ignite the fire of the devil, wouldn't his physical cultivation be 1,000 miles away, and his progress would be rapid? After all, Qin Daoxian has never lacked resources. 7017K. Chapter 411. Resource. A confident smile appeared on the corner of Qin Daoxian's mouth. He stroked the storage ring lightly, and suddenly, a large number of body refining treasures emerged from the storage ring. Among them, the most precious is 17 boxes of 3,672 pieces of immortal black diamonds. In addition, the most common treasure in the hands of Qin Daoxian is the blood crystal, which is the most common treasure in Zifu and even Jindan cultivators. The treasure of blood crystal was born in the real demon world, and it is the most common body refining treasure in the real demon world. Including blood marrow, which is more precious than blood crystals, is a specialty of the real demon world. The blood marrow in Qin Daoxian's hands was all obtained by the true immortal Yuanjie and his party last time, and the blood crystals were acquired by the Qin family after so many years from the Jianghu family in Taizhou. Given that blood crystals are relatively rare in Wuxia, the Qin family has not given up hoarding them for so many years. So much so that the number of blood crystals in the Qin family's hands reached an extremely exaggerated number. As far as Qin Daoxian knew, there were at least 1 million blood crystals in the Qin family's hands. Based on the price of the Jianghu family selling a blood crystal of 100,000 spirit stones, the Qin family paid at least 100 billion spirit stones to buy this blood crystal. Hundreds of billions of spirit stones. Even for the Yuanying clan of Wanxinghai, this is an extremely huge amount of wealth. Even in the entire Wanxinghai, except for the Qin family, almost all the Yuanying families could not come up with such a large sum of money. This shows how much wealth the Qin family's Zhonghai Xianqing has earned for the Qin family over the years. Nowadays, even Qin Daoxian is a little confused about how many spirit stones the Qin family can earn in a year. He only knows that the Qin family's spirit stones can never be spent. Even because the Qin family was crazy to earn spirit stones, there was a shortage of spirit stones in the Wanxinghai prefectures. If it wasn't for the Qinyuan sword sect who had shot down the Izumo country in time and won all the spirit stone mines in the Izumo country, maybe Wanxinghai would have been in a money panic because of the strong industrial production capacity of the Qin family. This is not alarmist. Although Guanhai Immortal City is only a large immortal city with a population of several million, its productivity is even stronger than that of the entire immortal cities in Taizhou, Jingzhou, Sangzhou and other surrounding 7 or 8 states combined. But that's the horror of large-scale industrial production. This is still the case that the magic tool machine tool is not completely popularized. If Qin Daochu completes the transformation of the magic tool machine tool, he will produce various high-level magic tool machine tools. The Qin family is about to enter a new round of industrial revolution. At that time, the industrial output value of Guanhai Xianqing exploded dozens of times again, and Qin Daoxian was not surprised at all. Of course, the industrial production capacity of Guanhai Xianqing is strong, but it also has some drawbacks. For example, strong industrial production capacity brings excess production capacity and difficulty in currency circulation. Overcapacity is easy to understand. The country where Qin Daoxian lived in his previous life also encountered this problem. There is only one way to solve this problem: expand the market. Whether the Qin family opened up the Yuanqin Xianqing market or the Chuyin country market, it was all to solve this problem. In order to solve this problem, Qin Daoxian already had the idea of doing it once and for all, but Qin Daoyan didn't need to worry anymore. As for the difficulty of currency circulation, it was the problem that Qin Daoxian discovered in the early days of the Qin family's development. In order to solve this problem, Qin Daoxian disregarded everyone's opposition and forcibly launched a new type of paper currency, Lingshi coin, in Guanhaixin. Compared with the use of non-renewable resources such as spirit stones as currency, the emergence of spirit stone coins can fundamentally solve the problem of currency circulation difficulties. But at the same time, Lingshi coins also have a flaw, that is, the exclusion of other state families and even Qinyuan Jianzhong. After all, the other forces in Wanxinghai are not fools. Of course, they can see the consequences of handing over the coinage to the Qin family. In fact, Qinyuan Jianzhong did not hesitate to come up with something like a military merit system in order to take the coinage of the currency into his hands. But after hundreds of years of hard work, under the repeated resistance of the major immortal families in Wanxinghai, the military exploits of Qinyuan Jianzhong have not completely replaced the spirit stone and become the basic currency of Wanxinghai. Of course, this also involves the struggle between Yi Yin and Fei Chengshi's faction, and the situation is more complicated. Now, although Fei Chenxue has completely cleaned up Yi Yin, Qin Daoxian, who is stronger than Yi Yin, has stood up. Although concubine Chenxue did not want to be an enemy of Qin Daoxian from the bottom of her heart, Wanxinghai was so big that one mountain could not hold 2 tigers. As long as the Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzhong, the 2 giants, both want to dominate Wanxinghai, conflicts between the two are bound to break out in the future. Unless Let the interests of Qin Yuan Jianzong and the Qin family be completely combined. Shook his head. Qin Daoxian put away the distracting thoughts in his heart, and looked intently at the blood crystals piled up like a hill in front of him. With his body training, it is most suitable to use blood crystals. The use of blood marrow is a bit wasteful. As for the true meaning of immortality, which is shaped like a black diamond, it is simply poison to scrape bones. With Qin Daoxian's current physical strength, he can't even touch it. Looking at the blood crystal in front of him, Qin Daoxian picked one up and held it up in front of him. When cultivating Dragon Python Swallowing Heaven technique, he used blood crystals in a very primitive and rude way, that is, cutting the flesh, stuffing blood crystals into flesh and blood, and then running Dragon Python Swallowing Heaven technique, frantically to refine the blood crystal. This process is very painful, but the speed of improving body cultivation is also the fastest one. After so many years, Qin Daoxian has not relaxed his body training practice, but after all, the practice time is short. To this day, his body training has only reached the pinnacle of the skull-smashing realm, and he has not completely entered the blood drop realm. As for integrating the true meaning of immortality and condensing the true body of immortality, it is even more than 108,000 miles away. Now that there is the cultivation method of Duqian Demon God's true body, Qin Daoxian can completely abandon the backward training method in the past. Think of this. Qin Daoxian didn't delay any longer, and immediately practiced according to Zhu Rong's practice method. In the blink of an eye, a year has passed. Dongfu's Hong. Qin Daoxian opened his eyes irritably. During this year, day and night, he visualized his body turning into an oven, trying to ignite the essence and blood as fuel wood, turning it into a fire of the devil, but he was unable to succeed. This Duqian Demon God real body is too difficult. Qin Daoxian frowned. Obviously, I have thoroughly understood this practice, and the physical strength also meets the standards for cultivating it, but for so long I can't even get started. Seeing the delay in effort for so long, Qin Daoxian was heartless and stopped trying. Instead, he used his magic power to capture a bunch of blood crystals. There were 23 blood crystals in total. Immediately afterwards, he used his fingers to transform the sword, frantically controlling the immortal sword condensed by the power of the law, cutting his fleshly body. The fleshy body of the skull-smashing realm, under the cutting of the sword of law, was as fragile as a piece of paper, and it was easily slashed with blood. Qin Daoxian immediately controlled the blood crystal and squeezed it into the blood port on his body. Laugh. The moment the blood crystal was squeezed into the flesh, it merged into Qin Daoxian's blood, and the next moment his blood became extremely hot. At this moment, if someone took out some of Qin Daoxian's blood to measure the temperature, he would find that his blood reached an astonishing tens of thousands of degrees. With such scorching heat, even steel can easily melt. But with the strength of Qin Daoxian's body, it was only hot and red, and there was no other change. It's just that Qin Daoxian knew in his heart that this was just foreplay. After the blood crystal is integrated into the flesh and blood of the flesh, if the body refining exercises are not used to refine it, the temperature of the blood will increase over time until the cultivator's flesh is completely melted. Unless the cultivator's body reaches the blood-dropping realm, even the cultivator in the skull-shattering realm would not dare to allow blood crystals to boil in his own blood. Qin Daoxian dared to do this because his body training reached the peak of the skull-breaking realm, and he was only one step away from the blood-drop realm. On the other hand, he wanted to push himself. The cultivation of Zhu Rong's body is more difficult than he imagined. The biggest difficulty among them is that the threshold for cultivating this demon god's body is too high. With his skull-shattering body, he can't actually ignite the demon god's fire. You must know that this group of devil fire is the foundation of Zhu Rong's cultivation. If you can't ignite this devil's fire, you don't even have the qualifications to practice this technique. This can't help but arouse Qin Daoxian's pride. Qin Daoxian has never encountered the slightest obstacle, no matter how difficult it is to practice, and now a mere body training practice has stumped him. How could Qin Daoxian be convinced by this? More importantly, he clearly understood this practice, but he just couldn't get in. If the physical body is too far away, Qin Daoxian will sigh in one breath, but it is clearly written in this practice that the threshold for cultivating the body of the devil is the skull-smashing realm. This is what makes Qin Daoxian the most angry. Whether it is software or hardware, he meets the requirements, but it is difficult to accept the feeling that his cultivation is unsuccessful. Qin Daoxian immediately thought of using blood crystals to melt into the blood to increase the temperature of the blood. Perhaps he could try this method to ignite the fire of the devil in his body. Quiet indoors. The temperature of Qin Daoxian's body continued to rise as time passed. In the end, his internal organs and muscles began to melt a little bit. Fortunately, he had set up a defensive formation in this cave, otherwise the high temperature would have evaporated even the seawater around the cave. The stone walls in the cave, under the intense high temperature emanating from Chen Daoxuan's body, were roasted into glass-like crystals. In the practice room, the warm jade futon that Chen Daoxian sat cross-legged gradually melted and turned into chalcedony, and then evaporated. In the end, Chen Daoxian turned into a small sun, making people dare not look at him. The fire of the devil. Light it up for me. Chen Daoxian screamed wildly in his heart. At this moment he had already risked his own life, and if he didn't succeed, Chen Daoxian would definitely turn into a pile of flying ashes. It can be said that this is the most adventurous thing he has ever done in his practice. It was even more dangerous than when he and Qin Zhan raided the Qingwei Taoist sect together. But the path of cultivation is like this, and any high-level cultivator has passed through many life and death difficulties along the way. Among them, there are dangers in the process of cultivation, and there are also dangers encountered when going out to find opportunities. But as a monk, since he chooses to embark on the path of cultivation, he must be prepared to die at any time. Obviously, Chen Daoxian is also a qualified monk. In order to go further on the path of spiritual practice, he did not hesitate to die and then live. But obviously he made the right bet this time. Just when his fleshly body melted to the point where only the upper body remained, a gray flame was ignited by Chen Daoxian at the acupoint in the chest. See this scene. Chen Daoxian almost cried with joy. Refining for me. Chen Daoxian roared in his heart. In an instant, Chen Daoxian merged into the blood crystals in Chen Daoxuan's blood, and was quickly refined by this gray flame. As the blood crystals were refined, Chen Daoxuan's body began to recover rapidly. Not only did new legs grow, but his physical strength also began to increase wildly. This kind of increase in physical strength is unprecedented. This feeling is like constantly upgrading when playing games. If the dragon python swallowing heaven technique refines blood crystals and increases the strength of the physical body at a speed of 1, then the speed at which this group of demonic fire increases the strength of the physical body is at least several thousand. The difference between the two is completely incomprehensible. What's even more terrifying is that, according to the records in the real body of the demon god of Dutian, the gray flame condensed by Zhu Rong's body is only the lowest kind of flame. With the improvement of the cultivator's physical cultivation, the power of this flame will continue to increase. Chen Daoxian didn't care about the power of this gray flame, but Chen Daoxian could see the speed of it refining blood crystals. Back then, it took him several days to refine a blood crystal with dragon python swallowing heaven. But now, most of the 23 blood crystals remained in his blood, but they were refined by Chen Daoxian in less than a cup of tea. Even due to this amazing increase in physical strength, Chen Daoxian faintly felt that the threshold that prevented him from breaking through to the blood-dripping realm was actually loosened. This is too exaggerated. Chen Daoxian showed an unbelievable expression on his face. Doesn't this mean that I can break through the blood-dripping realm in just a few days? Think of this. Chen Daoxian was instantly motivated. He is neither short of resources nor short of training speed, and he is ready to make a rush to break through the physical body to the blood-dripping realm. The next day, as the last blood crystal was refined into nothingness by the gray flame in the Tanzhong cave, Chen Daoxian withdrew from the state of refining the blood crystal. If there are outsiders present, they will be surprised to find that Chen Daoxuan's physical cultivation has been upgraded to the blood-dripping realm. Not only that, he even completed the consolidation of the realm. From the outside, it was impossible to tell that he had just broken through. In one day, this gray flame is stronger than I imagined. Chen Daoxuan's consciousness observed the dark gray flame quietly burning in the Tanzhong point and muttered. He found that as the physical cultivation level broke through to the blood-dripping realm, the flame in the Tanzhong cave changed from light gray to dark gray. Apart from that, Chen Daoxian did not notice any other changes. As for the terrifying power of the devil's fire mentioned in Dutian demon god real body, he did not know it. After all, with his great Tao realm, even if the power of this demonic fire is astounding, it is only a blood-dropping flame. Can it still burn the true monarch nascent soul to death? Compared with this, Chen Daoxian is more concerned about the consumption of resources by cultivating Zhu Rong's body. Chapter 4:13. After saying this, the atmosphere on the field was slightly heavy. Of course, even if the real demon world really devoured the Phoenix meteor world, it would have to be tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years later. By then, let alone us, it might not be possible for the current transcending robbery. Live in the world. After all, the fairy way is cut off. Speaking of this, Fei Chengshi's tone became low again. Don't talk about it, she raised her head and said playfully with her hands behind her back. Last time you asked me, didn't you say you wanted to show me your Qin family's Guanhai Xianqing? Ah. Qin Daoxian was a little uncomfortable by Fei Chengshi's playful appearance, and cupped his hands. Sect master, please. As he said that, he turned to look at Ziling, who was beside him. Fairy Ziling, please stay here later. Ziling nodded. Fushin bowed and said, concubine knows that the son and the concubine will be the sect master. Okay. Qin Daoxian nodded, and immediately he took Fei Qinxue and flew towards the industrial area of Guanhai Xianqing. Guanhai Xianqing, as an industrial city built by Qin Jiaqing's whole family, has expanded by at least 10 times compared to the beginning of the city after so many years of continuous development. The most obvious feature is that Guanhai Xianqing completely banned the city wall without precedent in history. You must know that most of the immortal cities will set up such things as city walls. First, the city wall and the defensive formation can provide a good protection for the immortal city. Second, this city wall is the boundary between immortals and mortals, and it separates immortals and mortals very well. This city wall protects more than immortals but mortals. But the Seaview city of Sequoia Island completely broke this pattern. Because Guanhai Xianqing is a city where immortals and mortals coexist. The population of the entire Guanhai Xianqing, including mortals, has reached tens of millions. Even if it is only a monk, there are millions of people. Although it is not comparable to Yuanshan Xianqing in terms of Cangzhou, this is already the largest Xianqing. Stop here for a while. Fly halfway. Fei Qinxue said suddenly. Qin Daoxian probably knew what the other party was thinking and nodded, okay. The two of them lowered their escape light and landed on the broad road in the noisy city. The majestic buildings of Guanhai Xianqing did not attract Fei Chengshi's attention. After all, for her, the sect master of Qinyuan Sword Sect, she has seen the majestic Tianzuan city, not to mention the building in a small Guanhai Xianqing. What really surprised Fei Qinxue was that the immortal city in front of her was actually a city where immortals and mortals lived together. This really surprised her. You must know that in the cultivation world, monks generally look down on mortals. Because in the eyes of monks, mortals are not only weak, but their lives are like morning dew, fleeting in a blink of an eye. This kind of existence makes many monks have a feeling that they do not agree that mortals are the same as them. The difference between immortals and mortals is the best interpretation of a monk's attitude towards mortals. But in Guanhai Xianqing, concubine Qinxue saw a completely different scene. Immortal cultivators and mortals in this city actually lived in harmony. This kind of thing Fei Qinxue has experienced so much, this is the first time I have heard of it. Perhaps in the eyes of ordinary monks this kind of thing is no big deal, but in the eyes of Fei Chengsu, the ruler of Wangxinghai, the significance of this matter is simply too great. It's easy to kill a person, but it's too hard to change everyone's ingrained ideas. Even if there is another Mahayana true immortal in Fengyun realm now, it is impossible to change the traditional concept of all monks. This is simply the Arabian Nights, but in Guanhai Xianqing she saw this scene of the Arabian Nights. How did you do it? Fei Qinxue asked thoughtlessly. Qin Daoxian knew what she was asking. The biggest difficulty in making mortals and monks live in harmony is to make monks recognize the value of mortals. Mortal worth. Fei Qinxue frowned. Are mortals valuable? For cultivators, the only value of mortals is to provide immortal seedlings for the cultivator group. The monks do not need to eat the food cultivated by the mortals. Many times, the monks have to protect this group of weak mortals, so in the eyes of the monks, the mortals seem so dispensable. Without value there will be no sense of existence. For this kind of worthless and weak existence, doesn't the cultivator bully if he wants to, or ravage if he wants to? Fei Qinxue knew that the value Qin Daoxian said was by no means a simple matter. She is now completely interested in this fairy city. In order for Wan Xinghai's loose repairers and mortals to have room to survive, Fei Qinxue did not hesitate to turn against the elders of the sect. Sometimes Fei Qinxue also wondered whether her persistence was right or wrong. But she knows that she blindly exploits the bottom, and the bottom has no resistance, and the final outcome is that the bottom will die. With the disappearance of the bottom, how can the interests of these ruling classes be guaranteed? Fei Qinxue knew from the beginning to the end that to safeguard the interests of the most subordinate groups in Wanxinghai was to safeguard the interests of the Qinyuan Sword Sect, the ruling class. However, Yin couldn't see this. Or rather, he couldn't see that far. Yin could only see that concubine Qinxue was cutting the flesh of Qinyuan Jianzong to feed the bottom of Wangxinghai. The bottom layer here refers not only to loose cultivators, but also to a larger number of mortals. When concubine Qinxue was the suzerain, she had clearly made a decree that strictly prohibited monks from wanton slaughter of mortals, and those who violated the order would be punished. It is precisely because Qianyuan Jianzong set the tone that Wan Xinghai is extremely stable inside. When Qin Daoxian was weak at the beginning, he rarely encountered murder and stealing treasures, and it was all because of the decree of Qianyuan Jianzong. This is also the most fundamental reason why the Qin family is now strong, but Qin Daoxian did not unite with other Xiuxian families to rebel, but chose to form an alliance with Qianyuan Jianzong. Compared with Wan Xinghai's immortal cultivation family, Qianyuan Jianzong or Fei Qinxue was more worthy of his trust. The human heart is sometimes worthless, but sometimes it is worthless. Facing Fei Chengshi's doubts, Qin Daoxian smiled and said nothing, because what she sees next will completely subvert her cognition. So, the industrial zone of Guanhai Xianqing has arrived. After decades of development, the number of industrial zones in Guanhai Xianqing has expanded to 13, for more than the 9 major industrial zones at that time. Most of these newly added industrial areas are factories that produce various magical instruments, magic charms and medicinal pills. In addition, there are only 3 categories of vision tools, magic talismans and medicinal pills. But each major category is subdivided, and I don't know how many small categories can be subdivided. Take the magic weapon as an example. Among all the instruments, according to their grades, there are 21 types, from low-grade 1st grade to high-grade 7th grade. According to the function, it can be divided into several types. And for each kind of magic weapon, there will be countless styles of magic tools. For example, the first-order mid-grade offensive instruments include sword-type instruments such as the Red Shadow Sword and the Golden Light Sword, as well as various other styles of non-sword-type instruments. With so many instruments, each can build an independent factory for specialized production. For example, the Qin family's earliest factory that produced the Red Shadow Sword, the same is true for magic talismans and medicinal pills. There are many kinds, and there are naturally many factories that produce them. The factories in the 13 industrial zones of Guanhai Xianqing were selected by the Qin family through feedback from market sales. The products produced by these factories are not only highly competitive, but also extremely popular. This allowed the Qin family to accumulate terrifying wealth that was unmatched by countless Yuanying families for thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years in just a few decades. Sect Master, please. In front of Qin Daoxian, the formation light curtain was opened by him with a token, and then he made a gesture of invitation to concubine Qinxue. Fei Qinxue nodded. Your protection here is much stricter than outside. Not only is there a 6th-order defense formation, but there are also many Zifu cultivators guarding it. In Fei Chengshi's eyes, the Zifu cultivator was nothing since his cultivation was too low. But the 6th-order protection formation is different. In theory, the Qianyuan Sword Sect's Guardian formation is only 6th order. It is the same rank as the defensive formation in front of him. The only difference between the two is that Qianyuan Jianzong's Guardian array has a wider range. There is no way, there are too many eyes peeping here and I can't stare at it all the time, so I can only improve its protection. Hearing this explanation, Fei Qinxue nodded in understanding. If it weren't so important here, I believe that with Qin Daoxian's temperament he would not be so careful. Thinking of this, Fei Qinxue couldn't help but look forward to what she saw next. So, the two came to the first factory they visited, the Red Shadow Feijin factory. The Red Shadow Feijin factory should be the oldest magic weapon factory in the Qin family. When the Qin family was weak, it was only because of the benefit of this Feijin factory that it grew little by little. At the beginning, Qin Daoxian also named the Hongyin Feijin for the sales shop of the Qiang Feijin factory. Thinking of the hardships in the early days of starting a business, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but have a hint of aftertaste in his eyes. This is. Entering the factory, Fei Qinxue was completely stunned when she saw the situation in each production workshop. What did she see? Mortal. Groups of mortals are actually cooperating with the monks and refining the magic weapon. At this moment, Fei Qinxue couldn't believe her eyes. No wonder Qin Daoxian was able to let the mortals and cultivators in Guanhai Xianqing live together. Where is this mixed living? They all work side by side. In the factory, mortals and monks have been mixed for a long time, and they have long been familiar with each other. On weekdays, when mortals see the restraint of a monk, Fei Qinxue doesn't see it here at all. Not only that, she even saw a new craftsman being reprimanded by a mortal master. Yes, it is unheard of for mortals to reprimand monks. What's even more strange is that the chi-refining cultivator who was reprimanded by mortals, not only did not get angry, but he did something wrong and his face was full of shame. No wonder he was ashamed, because just now he wasted a furnace of spirit or raw materials. This fledgling craftsman is also the craftsman training school in Guanhai Xianqing, a newly graduated apprentice craftsman. In the major industrial areas of Guanhai Xianqing, such newly graduated interns are everywhere, and there is nothing to be surprised about at the beginning. These mortals are furnace workers, and they are also a little afraid of the identity of the other cultivator. But they found out that these new interns, in addition to being stronger than them, were far less skilled than the old refiners in the factory. The raw materials they have worked so hard to extract from the Rongling furnace are often discarded, which makes these furnace workers not angry. As a result, there was a scene where the mortal furnace operator reprimanded the apprentice refiner. Seeing this scene, the other refiners in the factory not only did not stop them, but also looked at them with a smile on their faces, and pointed at them from time to time, making this apprentice refiner who had wrecked a magic weapon desperate to find a place to so get in. How can that be? Fei Qinxue was stunned at this moment. Qin Daoxian and Qin Daoxian had just entered the factory for a long time, and the factory manager in charge of production was long overdue. Patriarch. Seeing Qin Daoxian, this disciple of the Qin family who did not know which generation he was stunned at first, and then his voice changed with excitement. Fortunately, Qin Daoxian set up a soundproof barrier before the other party shouted. That didn't stop his voice from spreading. Keep your voice down, I'm just here to take a look. You don't need to worry about me, what are you busy with? Although Qin Daoxian said so, how dare this younger Qin family dare to take it seriously? For the next visit, Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue could also clearly feel each other's discomfort, so they simply ended the visit after a lap. Out of the factory. The shocking look on Fei Qingshue's face still did not subside. After a long while, she slowly opened her mouth and said, "This factory not only uses mortals and monks to produce together, but the efficiency is actually dozens of times that of ordinary refiners. In this way, which artifact refiner in the world can compete with your Qin family in the field of artifact?" Fei Qinxue looked at Qin Daoxian with a complicated expression. As the ruler of Wanxinghai, she knows better than anyone the significance of this magical instrument factory. Unlike the appearance of a top powerhouse in the Qin family, the factory that the two of them just visited can be copied, which is the most terrifying thing. Although the Qin family has Qin Daoxian in charge and its position is extremely stable, these factories are the key to the rise of the Qin family. If concubine Qinxue could not see this clearly, she would not be worthy to be the suzerain of Qinyuan sword sect. Next, Qin Daoxian took the concubine Qin Shui to visit the various factories of the Qin family one by one. Magical item factory, magic talisman factory, pill factory. Especially in the magic talisman factory, when Fei Qingshu saw each magic talisman, it did not need a monk to make it, but only relying on a mortal and a machine to produce the magic talisman. The shock on her face was indescribable. At the end of the visit, the expression on Fei Qingshu's face was completely numb. In less than half a day, her worldview was completely overturned by Qin Daoxian. Fei Qinxue had a hunch that even if the Qin family didn't have Qin Daoxian, they would rise sooner or later with these technologies alone. Because cultivators still have to rely on resources in the final analysis, and mastering these technologies, the Qin family has no shortage of resources at all. A force with sufficient population and no shortage of resources will grow and develop sooner or later. Leave Guanhai Xianqing Industrial Zone. The two strolled down a commercial street. Seeing the crowd of people coming and going, Fei Qinxue said slowly, "You revealing such an important secret of the Qin family to me is enough to prove your sincerity in forming an alliance with my Qinyuan sword sect." Concubine Qinxue paused and raised her head. "So, what do you want me to do for you?" Chapter 4:14. Do something? Qin Daoxian was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, "The sect master is serious, but I do have a few suggestions below, and I want to discuss it with the sect master." Hearing this, Fei Qinxue made a contemplative expression. Qin Daoxian couldn't help but feel a strange feeling when the ruler of Wanxinghai, who was once aloof, looked at him with this look, but soon this strange emotion was suppressed by him. He said sternly, "The production of magical instruments, medicinal pills and magic talismans in Guanhai Xianqing, you must have seen the sect master. Although industrial production has skyrocketed the output of magical instruments, it also has a disadvantage, that is, it is difficult to digest these products produced. For example, the charms produced by my Qin family have now occupied more than 90% of the market in Sangzhou, Yuanqin Xianqing and Jinan Xianqing. However, these markets only consume less than 1/10 of the production capacity of my Guanhai Xianqing. Hearing this, Fei Qinshue suddenly changed color. Although she had just visited the various magic talisman factories in the industrial zone, it was the first time she had heard from Qin Daoxian about the overall production and sales data. Horror. So scary. This small Sevuing immortal city has far surpassed the Qinyuan sword sect in terms of its ability to produce magic talismans. Not to mention other Yuan Ying families in Wanxinghai. Qin Daoxian's cultivation base can be improved to such a level in just a few decades. I am afraid that it is also inseparable from the resource supply of the Qin family. Qin Daoxian didn't seem to see Fei Chengshi's face and continued, that is to say, if Guanhai Xianqing fully produces charms, I am afraid that the entire Wanxinghai market for charms will not be able to consume the production capacity of Guanhai Xianqing. So, your idea is, my idea is simple, open up new markets. Fei Qinshue shook her head. Did you forget what I just told you, Tianzunqing's order? Qin Daoxian smiled. Of course I didn't forget it, but when I said the market, I didn't mean the Phoenix Meteor Realm. It's not the Phoenix Meteor Realm, Fei Qinshue frowned, and suddenly she raised her head sharply. You mean the real demon world, right? Qin Daoxian nodded. Compared to the Phoenix Meteor Realm, the real demon realm's market is extremely vast. No, absolutely not. Fei Qinshue kept shaking her head. The demons of the same rank in the real demon world are generally stronger than the cultivators in my Phoenix Meteor Realm. If they get magic weapons and magic talismans, their power will rise again. A traitor who is an enemy of the Fengyun world. Sect Master's words are bad. Qin Daoxian shook his head. From the Sect Master's point of view, if the demon court unites the real demon world, what should it do? Fei Qinshue didn't know the meaning of Qin Daoxian's words, but she still followed him and replied, if the demon court unites the real demon world, it will definitely invade our Phoenix Meteor Realm. At that time, my Phoenix Meteor Realm will destroy all life. That's right, the view below is the same as that of the Sect Master. There is no Mahayana true immortal in the Phoenix Meteor Realm, and we are far behind the real demon realm in terms of top powerhouses. If the real demon world is unified, it will definitely use troops in my Fengyun world in an all-round way. Therefore, what we have to do now is to delay the unification of the real demon world. When Fei Qinshue heard this, she was suddenly shocked, and her pretty face showed a hint of joy and said, you mean selling magic weapons and magic talismans to those forces that are hostile to Yaoting? Is this method really feasible? Fei Qinshue murmured. Absolutely feasible. The lords of the major demon kingdoms in the real demon world are used to being at ease. Who wants to have an extra power over them? Hearing this, Fei Qinshue nodded in agreement. It is like Qinyuan Jianzong as a second-rate sect, is unwilling to become a vassal of a first-rate sect in Xian Yunzu. If Qinyuan Jianzong was really willing to give up the immortal weapon of Emperor Yesbel and become a vassal of the first-class sect of Xian Yunzu, maybe he would not be defeated by Wanxinghai. But even at the most critical juncture of Qinyuan Jianzong, they did not compromise with any first-class sect. Speaking of which, the bones of Qinyuan Jianzong are still very hard. Although they fear the strong, they will never easily surrender to other forces. Because once surrendered to other forces, in addition to the loss of sovereignty, it also means that Qinyuan Jianzong will hand over most of its resources. Instead, they might as well retreat to Wanxinghai, hoping to make a comeback in the future. Facts have proved that Qinyuan Jianzong's original choice was not wrong. If it weren't for this, Qinyuan sword sect would never have developed to its current state of prosperity. In the current Qinyuan sword sect, as long as either concubine Qinshue and Qinzhan break through to the primordial spirit stage, they will be ranked among the top sect forces in the Fengyun realm in an instant. Only by becoming a first-class force, many things in the Fengyun world will really invite the Qinyuan sword sect to participate. Otherwise, like now, Qinzuan City treats Qinyuan Jianzong even less than the various families and sect forces of Qinyuan Jianzong. How can there be any attention at all? Even Tianzunqing doesn't care about the enmity between the various forces in the Phoenix Meteor Realm. There is only one order, that is, no more internal fighting is allowed. No one dared to disobey this order, because it represents the will of all the top forces in the Fengyun world. If Qinyuan Jianzong can become a first-class force, they have the qualifications to go to Qinzuan City to participate in the decision-making. Don't underestimate this qualification. To a certain extent, it represents the right to speak. In the Fengyun world, only the strong have the right to speak. Being able to have a place in the highest authority in the Fengyun world is itself a symbol of power status. Qin Daoxian continued, Besides this, there is another benefit to opening up the real demon world market, using the terrifying productivity of industrial production to plunder resources. He paused. Whether it is the Phoenix Meteor Realm or the true demon realm, these two worlds seem to be boundless, but in fact their resources are limited. Hearing this, concubine Qin Xue thought of what Chen Yuan Jianzong had said with Chen Daoxian before he parted. She asked Chen Daoxian how to solve the resource problem. Now Chen Daoxian finally answered her. Therefore, as monks of the Phoenix Meteor Realm, we must find ways to plunder the resources of the real demon realm. This can not only weaken the real demon realm's strength but also strengthen ourselves. To be honest, ever since he knew about the threat of the realm demon, Chen Daoxian had a little disdain for the fighting inside the Fengyun realm. Compared with the infighting of the monks, there is no joy in opening up the territory. Moreover, the cultivation resources of the real demon world are much more plentiful than those of the Phoenix Meteor world. The reason is that the world monsters in the real monster world need cultivation resources to a large extent that are different from those of the monks. The cultivation system of the world monsters is more about strengthening the source realm in the body, and the growth of the source realm requires a kind of spiritual power. Spirituality, on the other hand, usually exists only in the body of living beings. Therefore, to the monks of the Phoenix Meteor realm, the true demon realm is simply a brand new world that has not been mined. It is conceivable that its resources are rich. This is also the reason why Chen Daoxian coveted the real demon world. Like the Phoenix Meteor world, although it is boundless, the number of monks is also countless. Almost every spiritual vein and every spiritual mine is occupied by monks. If you want to master resources, you have to fight each other. In Chen Daoxian's opinion, instead of fighting in the Phoenix realm, it is better to go to the real demon realm to fight. Anyway, in the end they all die, so why not fight before they die? Maybe the monk will win? When the time comes to vacate the cage and change the bird, what if the real demon world devours the Phoenix Meteor world? For the cultivator, it was just a change to a larger main world to survive. It's just that today's monks have lost the spirit of the ancient times. It's okay to tell them to fight infighting. Let them go to Liangjiyuan to fight with the monsters. One is more counseling than the other. This is also the reason why Jiang Qingye looks down on the sect monks of the Fengyun realm. After listening to Chen Daoxian's narration, Fei Qinxue was speechless for a while. For her today, the stimulation was really a bit big. Not only did she see what industrialized production was in the Qin family, but she also learned for the first time about Chen Daoxian's ambitions. When others were still staring at the 3-acre land of Fengyun realm, Chen Daoxian's eyes had long been placed on the true demon realm. No wonder he had no intention of competing with Chen Yuan Jianzong for the dominance of Wan Xinghai from the very beginning. It turns out that his goal has always been the real demon world. To outside cultivators, they were feared like a tiger demon, but in the eyes of this man, they could be controlled and exploited. At this moment, Fei Qinxue understood for the first time why the children of the Qin family were always extremely fanatical when they saw Chen Daoxian. This kind of fanaticism, even Fei Qinxue as the sect master of Qinyuan Sword sect, has never been felt by the disciples of the sect. This kind of fanaticism represents Chen Daoxian's unparalleled prestige in the Qin family. A monk may be able to use his strength to make other monks who are not as strong as him feel awe, but it is impossible for others to be fanatical about it. Being able to do this proves that Chen Daoxian has conquered everyone from the bottom of his heart. In fact, after concubine Qinxue recovered from the Cloud Kingdom, her prestige in the sect was already very high, but it was still not comparable to Chen Daoxian's prestige in the Qin family. I basically understand what you think. What do you mean, do you want to build a force in the real demon world to fight against the demon court? Chen Daoxian shook his head. It's not to support a force to fight against the demon court, we don't have such a strong ability for the time being. What I mean is, to support a force to join the force against the demon court, and gradually occupy a high position in the alliance forces that resist the demon court. The most ideal result is to finally incorporate this alliance against the demon court. Concubine Snow looked at him indifferently, and after a while, her red lips lightly lifted. Your ambition is really big. Chen Daoxian smiled unconcernedly. This goal is indeed very grand, and with the strength of my Qin family alone, it is fundamentally inadequate to implement it perfectly. Therefore, I hope to get the help of Chen Yuan Jianzong. Chen Daoxian stared at Fei Qinxue intently. Concubine Qinxue looked at him without hesitation. If I promise you, it means that the future and destiny of Qinyuan Sword sect will be placed on you. This bet is too big. After a long while, Fei Qinxue shook her head. Seeing Fei Chengshu's appearance, Chen Daoxian's heart tightened. She refused? But then, Fei Qinxue changed her words. This price is too high, I have to get your guarantee. Guarantee? Qin Daoxian frowned. I don't know what guarantee the sect master wants from me. You must ensure that no matter whether this plan succeeds or fails, you will not betray my Qinyuan sword sect, let alone cross the river and demolish the bridge. Fei Qinxue was finally afraid. Even Tianzuan City is nervous about the demon court force. Qin Daoxian dares to calculate it. This is simply daring. If things were to be revealed, Fei Qinxue dared to be almost certain that the demon court would definitely dispatch a heavenly ranked world demon to come to pacify the Wangxinghai. Even if Qin Daoxian, Qin Zhan, and she all break through to the primordial spirit stage, it is estimated that it will be difficult for a Tianzuan-level powerhouse to resist. At that time, if Qin Daoxian betrays Qinyuan Jianzong, they will really be wiped out. After all, the Qin family is not worth mentioning compared to Qinyuan Jianzong, whether it is population or sphere of influence. With Qin Daoxuan's strength, he can completely take the elite of the Qin family. But how did the Qinyuan Jianzong escape? There is absolutely no way to run, and if the foundation of Wanxinghai is abandoned again, can the Qinyuan sword sect rise again? Fei Qinxue does not know. Therefore, concubine Qinxue, who has always been courageous, actually asked Qin Daoxian for a guarantee. Yes, you can make an oath to the sect master at any time. Qin Daoxian said seriously. He is very clear that this matter is of great importance. Whether it is his Qin family or Qinyuan Jianzong, it can be said that they are doing this at the risk of being chased and killed by the real demon world. It was understandable for Fei Qinxue to ask him for a guarantee. Who knows? Fei Qinxue shook her head. I don't believe in the oath of the great Tao in this matter. I want to marry you. I want to have a child with you. Huh? Qin Daoxian seemed to think he had heard it wrong and looked at her in shock. It turned out that Fei Qingshue's face was very calm. It seems that the words of marriage and childbirth did not come out of her mouth. This time, Qin Daoxian couldn't hold back a little and said cautiously, reporting to the sect master, I have already married. I know, the princess of the merman clan Luo Li, right? Concubine Qinxue nodded. The mermaid race is also a branch of my ancient human race, and I agree with her as the side chamber. Hearing these words, Qin Daoxian knew that Fei Qinxue didn't mean to joke at all, and the other party was serious. Qin Daoxuan's face also became serious. I have to think about marriage. Marriage matters, you really need to think about it. I will stay with you for a few days, so I won't disturb you, right? Seeing Qin Daoxuan's serious appearance, Fei Qinxue couldn't help but laughed. Of course not. That's good. Saying that, Fei Qinxue disappeared in front of Qin Daoxian with a flash of light. Looking at the shadow of Fei Qingshue's passing away, Qin Daoxuan's heart couldn't help beating violently. To be frank, Fei Qinxue was the most temperamental woman he had ever seen. As the suzerain of the Qinyuan sword sect, Fei Qinxue couldn't help but have an excellent temperament and appearance, and her cultivation talent was even more amazing. In addition, over the past 400 years she has disintegrated Yi Yin's power almost by herself. From this point of view, it is not a loss for Qin Daoxian to be able to marry the concubine Qinxue. In fact, Qin Daoxian himself had a very good impression of concubine Qinxue. His only concern was that he would break Luo Li's heart. The moment Fei Qinxue turned around and left, the pretty face couldn't hold back any longer and was completely blushed. Although she has been in charge of a case for hundreds of years, in the final analysis, she is still an unmanned woman. It's really embarrassing to say that you want to marry and have children in front of a man so naked. 7017K. Chapter 415. Twin Lakes Island. In the courtyard of the immortal mansion where Qin Daoxian lived, a flash of light descended slowly. In the quiet room, Qin Daoxian, who was cultivating his body, stopped cultivating, and disappeared in the quiet room with a flash. See the patriarch. Seeing Qin Daoxian, Qin Fuxing, who was busy with dust, immediately bowed and saluted. Exemption. Seeing the Tianjiao Jr. of the Chen family, Qin Daoxian couldn't care less and asked eagerly, how is the search for materials? Hear this. Qin Fuxing looked a little embarrassed. He shook his head. Patriarch, I used my family strength to search in Wangxinghai and Izumo, but for more than a year I still found nothing. Hearing this, Qin Daoxuan's face was a little ugly. But he didn't think it was that strange. Although the main material for refining Aoki Ding Aoki steel is a fourth-order spiritual ore and its rank is not too high. However, the reserves of Qingmu steel, whether in Wangxinghai or Xianyunzhu, are not many. Second, the Jiang family, as an ancient immortal clan, has a number of top forces in the Fengyun world. They have obtained the refining method of the Qingmu cauldron for hundreds of thousands of years. They had already dug 3 feet into the ground and dug out the blue wood steel in the Phoenix meteor realm. How could there be any remaining blue wood steel for Qin Daoxian? No wonder Jiang Qingye was not worried that Qin Daoxian could crack the refining method of the blue wood cauldron. Because the other party knew that even if Qin Daoxian really mastered the refining method of Qingmu Ding, he would not be able to refine it without the materials. In the Phoenix meteor realm, the material of Qingmu steel has long been monopolized by the Jiang family. It really deserves to be the top force in the Fengyun world, Qin Daoxian said with a calm face. At this moment he really got to see the scales and half-claws of the top forces in the Phoenix meteor world. The other party can actually monopolize all the materials in the whole world, and let the Qin family dig 3 feet into the ground, but they can't find the materials for refining even a greenwood cauldron. Qin Daolian had already collected other auxiliary materials for refining Qingmu Ding, and most of these auxiliary spiritual or materials were only tier 3 or even tier 2. Only the main material for refining the blue wood cauldron, the blue wood steel, is the 4th order material and is the most precious. Chen Fuxing was ordered to look around but found nothing. This result really disappointed Qin Daoxian. Thinking of this, he became more determined to open up the real demon world. Compared with the Fengyun realm, a world that has been developed for countless years by major cultivation forces, the true demon realm is equivalent to an undeveloped virgin land. There must be countless resources and treasures waiting for the Qin family. As long as his Qin family has the ability to mine and acquire. Qin Daoxian glanced at Qin Fuxing, who was busy in front of him, patted him on the shoulder and comforted, "Since I haven't found it, this matter will be temporarily stopped." He paused. "I see that you have been practicing very hard recently. Have you reached the threshold of the late Zifu?" Patriarch Fuxing's cultivation base has reached the 5th level of Zifu, and is about to break through to the 6th level. Good. Qin Daoxian nodded. The expression on his face was quite relieved. Qin Fuxing is different from those monks who use the essence of vitality to promote cultivation. When Qin Fuxing was in the true immortal origin realm, he only used the essence of vitality and promoted his cultivation to the early stage of Zifu. He did not continue to use the essence of vitality, but chose to cultivate the realm of the avenue. After so many years, although his cultivation base has only reached the peak of the middle period of Zifu, his Dao realm has reached the peak of the realm of sword intent and star transformation, and he has almost stepped into the realm of Dao realm with 1 foot. It is enough to be comparable to the original Qin Daoxian. Of course, in this process the cultivation of the Qin family and Qin Daoxuan's preaching played a major role, but it was also closely related to Qin Fuxing's own efforts. In the new issue of the Zifu Tianjiao list, Qin Fuxing has become the top of the Zifu Tianjiao list with an absolute advantage. The Qin family has been on the top of the Zifu Tianjiao list for 2 consecutive generations, and it is also widely talked about in Wuxia. In the eyes of the outside world, this is the manifestation of the prosperity of the Qin family. The Qin family not only has the top strongmen like Qin Daoxian who suppressed the ethnic movement, but also a rising star like Qin Fuxing, which means that the Qin family has a continuous inheritance and a wealth of talents. Such emerging forces, as long as they are not stupid, no immortal clan would dare to offend. Qin Daolian collected the auxiliary materials for refining the Qingmu Ding, many of which were not complete within the Qin family's sphere of influence, but she could easily collect all the auxiliary materials. Among them, the influence of the Qin family played a key role. If the Qin family is not well known in Wuxia, it is really not an easy task to collect these auxiliary materials. Even if the Qin family can collect it after untold hardships, it will definitely pay a lot more. The ability to watch people cook dishes is the unique skill of the various immortal clan forces in Wuxia. For example, the original Zhou family in Guang'an Prefecture, although the water spirit beads they produce are not of high rank, they have no background, so outsiders can't buy them. Qin Daoxian looked at Qin Fuxing, changed the conversation and reminded, "However, while the cultivation of qi is improving, don't forget to improve the cultivation of body." Hearing this, Qin Fuxing showed a smile on his face and cupped his hands. "Don't worry, the patriarch, you will save your life." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian nodded reassuringly. Qin Fuxing has always been quite calm in the matter of cultivation, but he is very let down. Next, Qin Daoxian pointed out some doubts that Qin Fuxing encountered during his practice, and waved him away. Looking at Qin Fuxing's passing away, Qin Daoxian fell into contemplation. It seems that it is basically impossible to collect Aoki steel in the Phoenix meteor realm. His Qin family, for the time being, does not have the qualifications to compete with the Jiang family in Liangjiyuan. Think of this. The space fluctuated gently like ripples on the water surface, and then Qin Daoxuan's figure disappeared. Sequoia Island. In a huge spiritual mansion. Inside the gazebo. A woman dressed in white fairy veil is sitting on a stone bench. Opposite her is a young woman wearing a lavender palace dress. These two fairies both have amazing beauty. The difference is that the woman in white fairy clothes has a graceful and calm temperament. The woman in the purple palace dress looked restrained and timid. These two were concubine Qinxue and Xiling from Izumo. Concubine Qinxue looked at Xiling quietly and said slowly, "Miss Xiling, what are your plans in the future?" Xiling was shocked. She lowered her head and said weakly, "Reporting sect master, I don't know who my concubine is." Concubine Qinxue nodded. "You have a mysterious body of 9 yin which is fatally attractive to all male cultivators in the world, so you have to find a big tree to rely on, or you can become one by yourself." Big tree. I don't know which kind of life Miss Xiling wants to choose. Hear this. Xiling suddenly raised her head and said firmly, "Sect master, I choose the second one." Say it. Xiling immediately knelt down to the concubine Qinxue, buried her head deeply on the ground and said, "I beg the sect master to take it in." Concubine Qinxue waved her sleeves lightly, and Xiling stood up involuntarily. Seeing the beautiful woman in front of her who couldn't see the depth, Xiling became nervous again. She knew that her actions just now were very rash. As a female cultivator of Izumo, she actually wanted to become the disciple of the Qinyuan sword sect master. If she said it out, it would make people laugh out loud. Although she has a very rare spiritual body, the body of Jiuyin profound concubine. But in the cultivation world, there are too many monks with spiritual bodies. It is said that Yang Gongwan of Guang'an Mansion still has a water-moving spirit body, and it is not seen that Qinyuan Jianzong put it into the door wall. In the end, no matter how rare the spirit body is, as long as the mortal population under its jurisdiction is large enough, it can be found. As the ruler of Wanxinghai, Qinyuan Jianzong, a disciple of the Gate Wall, must first consider the disciple's loyalty to the sect. For disciples of family monks like Yang Gongwan, Qinyuan Jianzong has been tight-lipped since the concubine Qinxue took power and seldom recruited. Not to mention a woman like Xiling, who already had a cultivation base in Zifu and was born in the country of clouds. Just when Xiling felt desperate, concubine Chengshu's voice came into her ears again. "Have you thought about it? You want to worship me as your teacher?" Fei Chengshu's voice fell in Xiling's ears like a fairy. She nodded immediately and said, "Disciple thinks about it and asked the sect master to take it in." Saying that, he knelt down again. This time, Fei Qinxue did not continue to stop her. Xiling respectfully kowtowed 3 times towards concubine Qinxue. "Since you are willing to worship me as a teacher, I will accept you as a named disciple today." Concubine Qinxue paused. "Another day I will personally hold an apprenticeship ceremony for you in the sect." As the suzerain of Qinyuan sword sect, Fei Qinxue, even accepting a named disciple is not a trivial matter. Thanks to concubine Chengshu's complete eradication of the power of Yi Yin's clan, and the restoration of the land of Yungue, the power and prestige in Qinyuan Jianzong reached the peak of the previous suzerain. Otherwise, she will definitely be impeached countless times for recruiting Xiling, a woman from the Izumo country, as a disciple. But now, Fei Qinxue can completely decide this matter. The same suzerain, this is the difference. Although concubine Qinxue can't be like Qin Daoxian for the time being, everyone in the Qin family respects him like a god, but she is also a dictatorial suzerain. It is precisely because of this that she proposed to marry Qin Daoxian. Because as long as the two of them get married and give birth to an offspring, the Qin family and the Qinyuan sword sect will truly become one. At that time, the Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzong will become like the Shenqing Dao Alliance, no, even more closely connected forces than the Shenqing Dao Alliance. And only so. Fei Qinxue really dared to support Qin Daoxuan's plan to attack the real demon world without reservation. Otherwise, she would not dare. As the sect master of Qinyuan sword sect, she represents not only her, but also countless Qinyuan sword sect disciples, and even countless family forces, scattered cultivators and Wanxinghai countless mortals attached to Qinyuan sword sect. With so many burdens on her own, she has to be careful after saying this. The expression on Fei Chengshu's pretty face suddenly moved slightly. She lifted Xiling up again and said, "You should step back first." "Yes, master." Xiling changed his mouth. Watching Xiling leave, a figure instantly appeared in front of Fei Qinxue. It was Qin Daoxian. Seeing Qin Daoxian again, although Fei Qinxue had a graceful temperament, there was still a flash of red on her pretty face. But this shyness was quickly suppressed by her, but Qin Daoxian didn't find it. Qin Daoxian glanced at Xiling, who was far away, and cupped his hands. "Thank you, Sect Master, for helping me out." "You're welcome," I accepted her, "but it's not all for you. Xiling has a mysterious body of 9 yin, which is quite in line with my Qinyuan Sword Sect's other sect-level exercises." Having said that, but Qin Daoxian knew that Fei Chengshu's move was to relieve him. Although the Qin family is powerful, Qin Daoxian is indeed not very good at placing Xiling. It's not that the Qin family can't protect a female cultivator with a mysterious body, but Qin Daoxian can also see that there is something wrong with Xiling's eyes. Although he has no intention of men and women, he is not an idiot. Every time Xiling looked at him, her eyes seemed to melt. How could he not know? Including Fei Chengshu's direct disciple Qi Yao looked at him a little bit wrong. Qin Daoxian knew all this, but his mind was never on these things. Even if it was Luo Li, if Luo Li hadn't taken the initiative to break the layer of window paper between them, Qin Daoxian would only let this initial affection slowly fade away with the passage of time. Because since the day Qin Daoxian set foot on the road of cultivation, he has devoted all his energy to the important task of his own cultivation and the revitalization of his family. Where can there be any extra thoughts for the love of children? In fact, in this respect he is very similar to Fei Qinxue. When concubine Qinxue took over the position of the sect master of Qinyuan Sword Sect, no matter whether it was strength or power, she could not stand firm in the sect. In the past 400 years she not only had to deal with the internal enemies of the Qinyuan Sword Sect, but also faced the external enemy of the Shenqing Dao League. Moreover, she does not have Qin Daoxian's plug-in. So along the way, Fei Qinxue was much more difficult than Qin Daoxian. It's just that this kind of hardship can't be seen by outsiders at all. Outsiders can only see Fei Chengshu's aloofness as the suzerain of the Qinyuan Sword Sect. It is unclear how much she paid, planned, and forbeared in order to overturn and destroy Yi Yin's clan forces to recover the Kingdom of Clouds. These Qin Daoxian can faintly see some of them. This is also one of the reasons why Fei Qinxue said that the two were married. She is willing to become a Taoist companion with Qin Daoxian, not only because of the needs of the two forces of the Qin family in Qinyuan Jianzong, but also because Qin Daoxian understands her. The so-called life is the most difficult to find a confidant. In Fei Chengshu's eyes, Qin Daoxian is the confidant who can understand her. The two looked at each other and looked away at the same time. The atmosphere between the two was a little charming. "Cough, I came here to ask the sect master something." Qin Daoxian coughed lightly to ease the embarrassment of the atmosphere. Seeing Qin Daoxian's appearance, Fei Qinxue covered her mouth and laughed lightly. "What's the matter?" Qin Daoxian said sternly, "I want to ask King Mugang about it." "Aoki steel?" Fei Qinxue frowned slightly. "Isn't this the main spiritual mine for refining Qingmu Ding? Why do you want it?" "The sect master knows the refining method of Aoki Cauldron?" This time Qin Daoxian was taken aback. "Of course I don't know," Fei Qinxue shook her head. "However, it's not a secret that the Jiang family wantonly collected Aoki steel in the Fengyun realm. It's almost a slightly bigger one. Cultivation forces all know. In addition, the Jiang family owns a treasure like Aoki Ding. Isn't the use of Aoki steel obvious?" It's Qin Daoxian smiled awkwardly seeing his appearance. Fei Qinxue looked at him with a pair of beautiful eyes and said with a smile, "It's you don't really master the refining method of Aoki Cauldron, right? Back then you handed the Qingmu Ding over to Jiang Qingye so happily, but now that I think about it, there is indeed something wrong. As far as I know, your Qin family shouldn't have much fortune reserves, right?" Faced with this questioning, Qin Daoxian looked at Xiang Fi Chengsu and smiled without saying a word. "Never mind," Fei Qinxue waved her hand. "King Mugang really doesn't exist in Fengyun realm, and even if there is, it's all in the hands of the Jiang family." Qin Daoxian gave up completely when he got this exact news. "If you really want to mine Aoki steel, only in the real demon world," Fei Qinxue added. 7017K. Chapter 416. With this, the problem is back to square one. Without the support of Qinyuan Jianzong, the Qin family would have to save for at least hundreds of years if they wanted to open up the real demon world. Because the development of the real demon world is not relying on Qin Daoxian's power alone, but more relying on the huge forces under his command. Just like intelligence, the Qin family's information about the real demon world is almost blank. The Qin family doesn't even know who the main enemy of the demon court is. How to lay out in the real demon world. There are many similar problems. In short, without the support of Qinyuan Jianzong, it is almost impossible for Qin Daoxian to lay out the real demon world in a short time. Even if he breaks through to the Yuanshan stage now, he can't do it thinking of this. Qin Daoxian stretched out his hand and said, I wonder if I might be fortunate enough to invite the sect master to come with me. Hearing this, Fei Chengshi's pretty face flushed slightly. She stretched out her white and tender plain hand and gently held Qin Daoxian's palm. My pleasure. The two of them looked at each other without saying anything. Finally, Qin Daoxian made his own choice. It is inevitable that the Qin family wants to truly unite with Qin Yuan Jianzong and marry the concubine Qin Shui. No one can replace this. Whether it is Qin Daoxian marrying Qi Yao, a disciple of concubine Qin Shui, or Qin Fuxing marrying a direct disciple of Qin Yuan Jianzong, it is impossible for the Qin family and Qin Yuan Jianzong to be completely united. Only when he and Fei Qinshui combine, can these two behemoths unite. The two of them clasped their hands together lightly and then slowly let go. Whether it is Qin Daoxian or concubine Qin Shui, they are both seniors with a high level of cultivation. The two of them have a long life expectancy, and they are not in a hurry when it comes to matters between men and women. On the contrary, whether it is Qin Daoxian or Fei Qinshui, they all want to cultivate a good relationship before marriage. It was because he and Fei Qinshui married for political purposes. So the two of them knew better that, to a certain extent, the future relationship between the Qin family and Qin Yuan Jianzong would depend on his relationship with Fei Qinshui. If the relationship between the two is harmonious, the integration of the Qin family and Qin Yuan Jianzong is bound to go smoothly in the future. If not, the Qin family and Qin Yuan Jianzong may fall apart or even turn against each other. Seeing Qin Daoxian make his own choice, Fei Qinshui looked at him with different eyes and said softly, What are you going to do? Don't lie to the sect master. Fei Qinshui shook her head. You can just call my name. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian was stunned for a moment and then he said, Then, how about go calling you Shui heir? Hearing this name that no one had ever called before, Fei Chengshi's pretty face blushed slightly, she nodded and made a sound like a mosquito. Okay. With the permission of Fei Qinshui, Qin Daoxian smiled and said, Shui, this is what I think. Next, Qin Daoxian told concubine Qinshui about his previous layout in the true immortal origin realm. Who knows that Fei Chengshi's face was quite surprised after hearing this. You mean, when you were in the Zifu period you already laid 2 chess pieces in the Qingqiu demon country? Right, Qin Daoxian nodded. Not only that, Qi Tong and Qi Ling, the 2 big monsters, also brought back a Dao Law at that time. With this credit, plus the 2 people's original Zifu peak cultivation base, it is estimated that the 2 have now been promoted to Jindan repaired it. The Qi Tong and Qi Ling in Qin Daoxian's mouth were the 2 Zifu level world monsters who were enslaved by him with their soul imprints in the true immortal origin realm. Up to now, in Qin Daoxian's Sea of Consciousness, there are still the imprints of the souls of 2 world demons. In other words, the other party did not break free from the of the soul imprint. Thinking about it too, although the secret technique of soul seal has lost its brilliance in the Phoenix Meteor realm with the decline of the Imperial Beast sect, it is, after all, a stunt of an ancient sect. How could it be so easy to be cracked by 2 Demon King level demons? If this is the case, then the momentum of the Imperial Beast sect will not be so huge. The Demon King of Jindan cultivation base, a hint of joy flashed on Fei Chengshi's face. There are only a few Demon Master level demons in the Qingqiu demon country, and the Demon King level demons are already a big demon on the side of the suppression side to the Qingqiu demon country. I wait. Unexpectedly, Qin Lang, you still have such a hand. It was just a fluke. Qin Daoxian smiled. Fei Qinshui glanced at him and said with a smile, Since Qin Lang, you have made arrangements in the Qingqiu demon country, this time we will completely take down the 4 major demon kingdoms opposite the Wangxinghai Passage. The 4 great demon kingdoms? Qin Daoxian frowned. As far as he knew, the strength of the Qingqiu demon nation was not strong. Among the 4 major demon countries, it was only 1 step stronger than the extreme night demon nation. Whether it is the great Yuan demon nation or the lion and camel demon nation, they are much stronger than the Qingqiu demon nation. This can be seen from the number of demon master level demons in the 2 demon kingdoms of Deyuan and Shirtua. The most powerful great Yuan demon nation, the demon lord level world demon alone, has more than double digits. As for the lion and camel demon country, there are fewer demon lord level world demons, but there are as many as a dozen. Only the Qingqiu demon nation and the extreme night demon nation had the fewest demon lord level world demons, and the demon lord level world demons they possessed were only single digits. If it wasn't for the threat of the Qin Yuan sword sect being faced by the 4 major demon kingdoms, the Qingqiu demon kingdom and the extreme night demon kingdom would have been divided up by the 2 demon kingdoms, Deyuan and Shirtua. Seeing that Qin Daoxian was very puzzled, concubine Qinshui said with a smile, Of course it's the 4 major demon kingdoms, You wouldn't think that my Qinyuan sword sect has only been sticking to the real demon world channel for so many years and did nothing? Hearing this, Qin Daoxian looked at her in shock. You mean? Concubine Qinshua nodded. Like you, my Qinyuan sword sect also has some key layouts in the Great Yuan Demon Country and the Lion Camel Demon Country. As soon as the time comes, I can easily control these two demon countries. In hand. Although compared. Even if the 4 demon kingdoms across the Wangxinghai Pass are united, they are far less powerful than the Qinyuan sword sect. But Qin Daoxian didn't expect that the layout of Qinyuan sword sect was so far-reaching, to the extent that it could change the course of the 2 strongest demon kingdoms, Deyuan and Shirtua. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian's expression suddenly cheered up. Great, if we can take down the 4 major demon kingdoms and integrate them into one force, then we will have more bargaining chips to fight against the demon court. Who knows? Fei Qinshua shook her head. Although the 4 major demon kingdoms are not weak, they can't even compare with a second-rate sect in Xian Yunzu. If you want to join the alliance against the demon court, you will probably get all the money you can get. There is very little right to speak and we have to continue to expand our power. Heard? Qin Daoxian nodded. He knew that what Fei Qinshua said was right, that the forces that could fight against the demon court were definitely the huge forces united by countless demon nations in the real demon world. If you want to gain a firm foothold in these forces and have enough power to speak, it is not enough if your strength is too weak. Qin Daoxian estimated that at least he had to have a force comparable to the first-class sect to occupy a place in the Anti-Monster Court Alliance. These are things to come later. Our goal this time is to completely conquer the 4 demon kingdoms, and by the way we will collect greenwood steel to refine the greenwood cauldron. Hearing that the Qingmu Ding was being refined, Fei Chengshi's eyes first lit up, and then her beautiful eyes curved into 2 crescent moons. She knew that this was a manifestation of Qin Daoxian's trust in her. The other party really knew the refining method of Aoki Cauldron. Although Fei Qinshua didn't know how Qin Daoxian obtained this refining method, the fact that the other party could tell her the secret itself represented a kind of trust. And trust is slowly built up between the two. There is no trust in this world that can be achieved overnight. All trust is accumulated little by little. At least she now has a good start with Qin Daoxian. The next day, Taizhou. The 2 figures secretly passed through the True Demon Realm passage in Taizhou. This is the second time Qin Daoxian has come here. The last time he passed through the Taizhou passage he participated in the competition for the treasures in the True Immortal Origin Realm. Only this time his goal is to completely control the 4 demon kingdoms. Pass through the real demon world channel in Taizhou. The first thing that catches the eye is still the majestic Weiyang Xianqing. Qin Daoxian came here in secret this time with concubine Qinshua. Since concubine Qinshua held the Qinyuan sword sect master token, the journey was naturally unimpeded. In addition, the 2 of them are both in the world realm, and if they really want to confront each other, the world monsters of the 4 major demon kingdoms are not necessarily the opponents of Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinshua. With such strength, Qin Daoxian and concubine Qinshua, who were both daring and talented, naturally did not intend to mobilize other true monarchs of nascent soul to pass through Weiyang Xianqing all the way. Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinshua have completely stepped into the realm of Qingqiu Demon Kingdom. This was the second time Qin Daoxian came to this place and it was the first time for Fei Qinshua. The territory of Wanxinghai is extremely vast, and there are so many channels in the real demon world of Wanxinghai. As a concubine Qinshua, she is a small passage in Taizhou, so naturally she won't let her worry about it herself. In fact, for so many years, the Taizhou passage has been guarded by a Yuanying elder from the Taizhou Jiang family in Qinyuan Jianzong. Speaking of which, the main guard of Weiyang Xianqing is not even Qinyuan Jianzong, but the Jiang family in Taizhou. It can be seen that Qinyuan Jianzong did not care much about a small Taizhou channel. In the Qingqiu Demon Kingdom, high in the sky, a spirit boat flew quickly. On the spirit boat, Qin Daoxian and concubine Qinshua were in the same room. Seeing Qin Daoxian slowly withdrawing his energy, Fei Qinshua exclaimed, "Your body training method is really mysterious." Hearing this compliment, Qin Daoxian smiled bitterly and said, "Shui, are you trying to say that my Duqian demon god real body is too resource-intensive?" Seeing that the idea was exposed, Fei Qinshua smiled lightly and did not refute, "You don't know. Although this body training method is inherited from Wanxinghai, I found that it is very different from other body training methods." "Oh, what's the difference?" Fei Qinshua put on a posture of listening intently. Qin Daoxian explained, "Normal body training exercises consume body training resources and improve body training, right?" Fei Qinshua nodded. "But the Duqian demon god real body, that I practiced is different. Take the real body of Zhu Rong that I practiced as an example. It requires practitioners to ignite a group of demon fire that is paid by blood essence. The biggest benefit of this group of demon gods' fire is that it can quickly refine various body refining resources to quickly improve body refining cultivation. As he said that, under the control of Qin Daoxuan's mind, a dark gray flame floated out from his Tanzhong acupoint. If you look closely, you will find that the center of this dark gray flame has a little pure black color. It's just that this pure black flame is very small, and if you don't look carefully you can't see it at all. But at the same time, this group of devil fire is also the culprit that devoured the body refining resources. Speaking of this, Qin Daoxian had a painful expression on his face. Over the past few days, Qin Daoxian has been training his body every day. With the support of the new body training method and sufficient body training resources, Qin Daoxuan's body training has improved by leaps and bounds. In less than 10 days he has reached the peak of the blood-dripping realm. Only one step away, you can reach the state of initial integration into the real meaning of immortality. At this level, Qin Daoxuan's body refining cultivation level completely surpassed his qi refining cultivation level in the Jindan stage. At that time, his biggest shortcoming is not the lack of physical cultivation, but the low cultivation of qi. In the face of such a situation, Qin Daoxian should have been happy. But what makes him helpless is that the real body of Zhu Rong consumes too much resources for body refining. No, to be precise, it is the fire of the devil that consumes too much resources. Qin Daoxian never thought that the biggest consumption of cultivating Zhu Rong's real body is not the improvement of physical strength, but the improvement of the fire of the devil. The fire of the devil ignited by this group of hardships has actually become the biggest resource consumption item of Qin Daoxuan's cultivation so far. Just 10 days. All the blood marrow that Qin Daoxian brought back from the true immortal origin realm was swallowed up by it. Because the speed at which the fire of the devil devoured the blood marrow was too fast, Qin Daoxian had not even counted how many thousands of blood marrow it had swallowed. Just blindly filling. But this group of devil fire seemed to open its gluttonous mouth and devoured all the blood and marrow. Although the essence that was fed back during the period made his body refinement reach the peak of the blood-dripping realm. But if other body training methods, so much blood marrow, let alone one person's body training level can be raised to the peak of the blood-dripping realm, it is enough to raise 100 people. However, Qin Daoxian, who cultivated Zhu Rong's real body, could only improve his physical cultivation to the peak of the blood-dripping realm. This resource utilization rate is simply appallingly low. No matter how wealthy Qin Daoxian was, he still didn't want to do it. Of course, the only good thing about this body training method is that the body training speed is very fast. Compared with the previous dragon python swallowing heaven art, the training speed is hundreds of times faster. Seeing Qin Daoxuan's expression a little helpless, concubine Qin Shui on the side comforted her. Qin Lang, please don't underestimate this practice. Perhaps, your demon fire has power that you can't imagine. Shui'er, did you see something? Qin Daoxian asked quickly. Well, look at this black flame. Fei Qin Shui pointed at the pure black flame at the very center of the dark gray flame. If I guessed correctly, if you continue refining and devouring the blood marrow, this dark gray flame will completely transform into a black flame. But what's the use of this? Qin Daoxian was very puzzled. Although the power of this demonic fire is great, it can at most threaten Jindan cultivators, and even nascent soul cultivators can ignore it. You can't say that, concubine Qin Shui shook her head. Qin Lang, think about it, you have only practiced such a technique for a few days and you can obtain a flame that can threaten Jindan cultivator. If the resources are sufficient, wouldn't it be possible to threaten the nascent soul cultivator in a few days? What if you practice for several years or decades? Hearing this, Qin Daoxian was shocked, but his expression loosened again. But, how much resources will it take to consume? Fei Qin Shui gently held Qin Daoxuan's hand and said warmly, Qin Lang, didn't you say the resources of the real demon world are endless, and you will definitely be able to elevate your demon fire to an unprecedented level? Hearing this comfort, Qin Daoxuan's irritable mood seemed to be eased by a pair of small hands. He held the opponent's small hand gently and said nothing. 7017K. Chapter 417. Wanyao City. The capital of the Qingqiu Demon Kingdom. As the capital of the Qingqiu Demon Nation, the city of 10,000 demons is just like its name, where 10,000 demons are entrenched. Although the Qingqiu Demon Country is a demon country dominated by the Qingqiu Demon Fox, it does not mean that the entire Qingqiu Demon Country has only one kind of world demon, the Demon Fox. In the Qingqiu Demon Nation, There are many other types of demons, especially 10,000 Demon City, which can be called a dance of demons. Get out of the way, you're looking for death on the road. On a street in Wanyao City, a burly and demon-headed demon fox in the Zifu passed through the street, shouting loudly. Behind him is a team that can't see the end. It is worth mentioning that the escorts in this team are all ordinary humans wearing handcuffs and shackles. Most of these human races are women, and if you look closely, these women are not very old, very young. But the expressions on their faces were all the same, extremely numb. The world monsters on both sides of the street heard the shouts of the leader of the Zifu fox monster, and hurriedly moved out of the way, daring not to offend at all. A Zifu fox demon in the capital of the Qingqiu demon country, although it is not an absolute powerhouse, but its identity is different, it is the Qingqiu demon fox clan. In the Qingqiu demon nation, world demons of other races would not dare to offend the Qingqiu demon fox clan. These are the newly raised blood food in 10,000 Demon City, right? Among the demon group, a bloated world demon with a toad head and a bloated body looked at the long team of human race women, his eyes were shining, and his saliva was drooling. Right, beside him, a snake clan demon nodded, its vertical pupils were full of coldness. These good blood food must be used by Qingqiu to entertain the envoys of the demon court. You mean? The rumors are true, the Qingqiu demon nation wants to take refuge in the demon court. The snake world demon said coldly. Although it is not the royal family of the Dayuan demon nation, but it is also a snake clan demon, its favorable impression of the Dayuan demon nation is definitely higher than that of the Qingqiu demon nation. The recent turmoil in the demon court is so huge, as a member of the real demon world, it is impossible for the demons at the bottom to not pay attention. Although they, the low-level demons, can't control the situation in the real demon world. But as a snake clan demon, it must support the Great Yuan demon country, which is also a snake clan demon. The Great Yuan demon nation is clearly opposed to the demon court. In fact, this behavior of the Great Yuan demon nation is also easy to explain, as the most powerful of the four surrounding demon nation. The Dayuan demon nation is hundreds of thousands of miles in radius, and it is simply an overlord-level existence. As a hegemon who wants to have multiple fathers on his head. Even if this father's strength is many times stronger than that of the Great Yuan Yaogua. As the team progressed, the world monsters on both sides of the street pointed at the team. The Qingqiu fox demon who was headed by him, didn't mind either and let them talk in a low voice. The lord of the Qingqiu demon country is about to join the demon court, which is not a secret in the Qingqiu demon country. The blood food of these young human women, just as other world demons have discussed, is used by the Qingqiu king to entertain the demon court envoys. As long as it sends these blood food to the palace of the Qingqiu king, and does further processing, it can be presented to the Yaoting envoy. All the way. Soon, the palace of the king of Qingqiu was faintly visible. Although the Qingqiu demon nation was established by the Qingqiu demon clan, the level of civilization of the realm demons was obviously much lower than that of the human cultivators. This can be seen from the architectural style of their palaces. Although the place where the Qingqiu king lives is called a palace, in fact, it is a huge lair. And this lair has no beauty at all, but is extremely and bloody. The only commendable thing is that its area is large enough and sturdy enough. In front of the Qingqiu king's palace, a group of Qingqiu demon foxes wearing armor and holding swords are looking at the team that is slowly approaching them. These Qingqiu demon foxes are the guards of the Qingqiu king's palace. Coincidentally, these guard commanders were none other than Qin Daoxuan's spiritual pet, Qi Tong. Compared with the time when the true immortal origin realm was separated, Qi Tong's aura was even more terrifying, and its cultivation base, as Qin Daoxian had guessed, had been promoted to the realm of the Demon King. Only when he reaches the realm of the Demon King can he serve as the guard commander of the Qingqiu King's palace. Stop. The leader who escorted the blood food turned around and waved, and the team slowly stopped. Upon seeing this, the leader who escorted the blood food trotted forward, bowed his head in front of Qi Tong, and said respectfully, "Leader Qi Tong, the new batch of blood food that the country lord needs has been delivered." Okay. Qi Tong glanced at the crowd with long eyes, and the disgust in his eyes flashed away. As a spiritual pet engraved with a soul imprint by Qin Daoxian, Qi Tong's thoughts will be influenced by the soul imprint and move closer to Qin Daoxian himself. Now that I see a large number of human women being treated as blood food by world demons, how can I not feel disgusted? But no matter how disgusted, Qi Tong can do nothing at this time. Because this batch of blood food was dedicated to the demon court envoy by the Qingqiu king, Qi Tong wanted to save them, unless they exchanged their lives. And in the hinterland of 10,000 Monster City, even if it trades its life, I am afraid it can only save it for a while. Say it again. The policies implemented by the Qingqiu Demon Nation and the Dayuan Demon Nation are completely different. The Dayuan Demon Nation adopted a policy of stocking the blood and food of the human race, that is, allowing ordinary humans to build cities and courts. Let the ordinary human race manage themselves, and even the Dayuan Yaogua also took the initiative to provide the human race with the method of body refining, and then the Dayuan Yaogua regularly harvested the strong body refiners born in these human race cities, and euphemistically called it slaying monsters. General Assembly. The Qingqiu Demon Nation is different. They treat human blood and food more simply and rudely, that is, pure breeding. Just like this batch of human women who just arrived, they were raised by the Qingqiu Demon Nation since childhood. Even if Qi Tong can save the group in front of him, there are still more human blood food in 10,000 Monster City and even the entire Qingqiu Monster Nation. How much can it save? From the outside, although these human race women can walk, they have lost the ability to speak. In other words, they can't even speak, and they are completely reduced to two-legged sheep for the world monsters to eat. In the real world of demons, breeding ordinary humans is the most common way for world monsters to obtain blood food. As for the Great Yuan Demon Kingdom, it is very rare to build a country specifically for the human race, and then harvest it regularly. It is worth mentioning that among the 4 nearby demon nations, the Lion and Camel Demon Nation obtains blood food in the same way as the Dayuan Demon Nation. Only the Qingqiu Demon Nation and the Extreme Night Demon Nation adopted traditional farming methods. In the void, Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue, who were hiding their figures, were staring coldly at the scene in front of them. Now, Qin Daoxian's way of looking at things has changed a lot from before. He turned his head to look at Fei Qinxue and asked, "The way the Dayuan Demon Nation and the Lion and Camel Demon Nation treat ordinary humans was created by the Qinyuan Sword Sect?" "That's right," Fei Qinxue nodded. "Just this method can only reduce the deaths of ordinary humans, and it cannot change the tragic fate of the human race's body-refining powerhouse becoming a world demon blood eater." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian sighed and said, "The world is so powerful that you can save most of the ordinary human race. You have done a good job." Qin Daoxian still doesn't understand that the reason why the Dayuan Demon Kingdom and the Lion Camel Demon Kingdom use the method of regularly harvesting the top human race body refining powerhouses is precisely what Qinyuan Jianzong secretly came up with. At that time, he also felt that the human race living in the Great Yuan Demon Nation was so miserable that it could even be called darkness. But seeing these two-legged sheep in Qingqiu Demon Country, he knew that he could save so many ordinary human races, and Qinyuan Jianzong did not know how much he paid silently. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian firmly believed in his heart that the decision of the Qin family to join forces with Qinyuan Jianzong was not wrong. Look at this cruel scene in front of you. Qin Daoxian no longer concealed himself, but with a flash, he suddenly appeared in front of Qi Tong and the Zifu Fox demon who was responsible for escorting the blood of the human race. "Lord. Master." Although Qin Daoxian had not been seen for many years, Qi Tong recognized him at a glance with the connection of the soul imprint. This kind of intimacy in the soul cannot be erased. Hearing Qi Tong calling an unfamiliar human race cultivator as the master, the fox demon guard next to him and the fox demon in the purple house who was in charge of escorting the blood food were all stunned. Commander Qi Tong actually called a human cultivator the master. Their first reaction was that the leader of Qi Tong had betrayed. The Zifu fox demon who was in charge of escorting the blood food reacted the fastest. When he saw Qin Daoxian, he was only a little stunned, and then he wanted to fly towards the palace of the Lord of the Qingqiu Demon Kingdom. From its point of view, it is so close to the country lord entertaining the demon court envoy. As long as it makes a little movement, several demon lord-level powerhouses will rush out and take down the strange human race monk in front of him. The real demon realm and the Phoenix Meteor realm have been hostile for so long, and the real demons are no strangers to human monks. Especially the Qingqiu demon and the Boundary demon. Because within the Qingqiu Demon Kingdom, there is a fairy city built by human monks Weiyang Xianqing. For hundreds of years, the human monks have dealt with the demons of the Qingqiu Demon Country countless times. Not to mention, in the recent melee in the real immortal source world, the 4 big demon kingdoms did not know how many Zifu big demons were damaged. And these were all given by the monks of the human race. These thoughts flashed through the mind of the Zifu great demon like lightning. Boom. The next moment, it slammed its head into an invisible wall. The world demon had rough skin and thick flesh. Although it slammed into the space barrier condensed by the space cage, the Zifu demon fox did not suffer any damage, but climbed up in horror. Just when it was still in shock, another woman in a white fairy dress appeared in front of it. 2. The purple mansion fox demon wanted to release the projection of the source realm, but found that its source realm was firmly suppressed in the body by a terrifying force and could not be used at all. At this moment, the Zifu fox demon was completely desperate. However, during the whole process, Qin Daoxin didn't even look at each other, just waved his hand lightly, and a dark gray flame passed through the body of each Zifu demon fox. The power of this dark gray flame is terrifying, and every time it passes through a Zifu demon fox, it burns it into nothingness and not even the scum is left. Aside. Qi Tong stared blankly at the scene in front of him, and found that it had not been seen for more than 10 years, and Qin Daoxuan's strength had made it somewhat incomprehensible. If it is said that in the real fairy source world, it can roughly figure out Qin Daoxuan's strength level, but now Qin Daoxin is a fog in its eyes, and it is not clear at all. Fei Qinshua didn't pay attention to Qi Tong, but looked at Qin Daoxin and exclaimed, "Qin Lang, you devil fire has more power than I imagined. I am afraid that among the cultivators of the Jindan stage, few can resist." Hearing this, Qin Daoxuan's previous depression about the fire of the devil was relieved a lot. Spending a lot of body refining resources to get a spirit fire secret technique is not a disadvantage. Moreover, it seems that this spirit fire secret technique can still be continuously improved. The only thing that hurts the most is that upgrading this spirit fire secret technique is too terrifying for the consumption of body refining resources. If there is no real demon world, Qin Daoxin will directly give up practicing this body training method. Because Qin Daoxin is very clear with the resources of Feng Yunji's body training, it is easy to say when his body training is low. By the time he cultivated to the point where he was able to incorporate the indestructible true meaning, and even condensed the indestructible true body, the body refining resources of the Phoenix Meteor realm alone would not be enough for him to consume. The body refining resources in the Phoenix Meteor realm are already lacking, and this is no secret at all. Qin Daoxin still remembers that when he auctioned Dragon Python Swallowing Heaven at the Guang'an House auction, no one even competed with him. Because what is lacking in the Fengyun world is not the body refinement exercises, but the body refinement resources. Qin Daoxin was deeply touched by this point in his later body refining practice. When the cultivator's body training is low, most of them use spiritual rice to improve their body training. There are high and low levels of spiritual rice, but the spiritual rice with the highest rank can generally only improve the cultivator's body refinement to the realm derived from flesh and blood. After that, these so-called high-level spiritual meters gradually lost their effectiveness. After arriving at the flesh derivative realm, the most helpful resource for the cultivator's body refinement is the blood crystal. When you use blood crystals to reach the blood-dropping realm, you need to replace another more precious body refining resource, blood marrow. As for the immortal black diamond behind, there is no need to say how precious it is. In the Phoenix Meteor realm, whether it is blood crystals, blood marrow, or the true meaning of immortality, there is no such thing. Human monks want to obtain these only to them in the real demon world. Whether it is through the real monster world channel like Wan Xinghai, or directly through the battlefield outside the two worlds, you can obtain these resources that are not precious in the eyes of the world monster. As for the resources that the world monsters robbed, it may not be noticeable in the eyes of the human race cultivators, that is, ordinary mortals. Before the real demon world and the Phoenix Meteor world merged, there was no human race in the real demon world. The reason why there are so many human blood food in the real demon world today is that they were all plundered from the Phoenix Meteor world and then multiplied. Only hundreds of thousands of years have passed. The monks in the Phoenix Meteor realm almost forgot about this history, and they also forgot these ordinary human races that grew up after being robbed by the real demon realm. Even in the eyes of some extreme cultivators, these can't speak like a walking dead world demon blood food, not worthy of being a human race with them. Not happy for long. When Qin Daoxuan's eyes once again touched the group of numb human women in front of him, his brows furrowed deeply. "The world demon all be damned," he said coldly. Fei Qinshua silently held Qin Daoxuan's palm without speaking. Qin Daoxin turned his head and glanced at her, then looked at Qi Tong and said coldly, "Qi Tong, do you know the guilt?" "Master, spare your life, Qi Tong is guilty." Qi Tong hurriedly knelt down. "Get up." Qin Daoxin raised his head. He knew in his heart that with Qi Tong's strength, he could not save these people at all. "Thank you, Master." Akatsuki stood up tremblingly. "Tell me about this demon court envoy." "Yes." 7017K. Chapter 418. You mean this messenger sent by the demon court, let the lord of the Qingqiu demon kingdom take a grand look? Qin Daoxian frowned after hearing Qi Tong's story. Master, that's exactly what it is. Qi Tong respectfully. Qin Lang, what's the matter? On the side, concubine Qin Xue, who did not know why, looked at Qin Daoxian suspiciously. Qin Daoxian knew very well that although Fei Qin Xue was the suzerain of Qinyuan sword sect, she had never met the world demon of Qingqiu demon country, let alone dealt with the emperor of Qingqiu demon country. But Qin Daoxian had a relationship with the lord of the Qingqiu demon kingdom. Back then, Qin Zhan brought their cultivators from the Purple Mansion and Foundation stage to participate in the competition for the Dao Law of the true immortal origin realm. Qin Daoxian had witnessed Qin Zhan briefly confronting the lord of the Qingqiu demon kingdom. At that time, Qin Daoxian's strength was still shallow, and he didn't know the power of this Qingqiu demon king. But now that I think about it, with Qin Zhan's strength close to the real monarch of the world at that time, the lord of the Qingqiu demon kingdom can compete with him, and he must also be a powerhouse at the top real monarch level. This kind of powerhouse actually treats this demon court messenger grandly, proving that the strength of this demon court messenger is definitely not under the lord of the Qingqiu demon country. Even the other party is very likely to be a world demon at the level of a real king in the world. The cultivation path of the world monster is different from that of the human monks, but as long as the world monster understands the 3 Dao laws and can integrate them, they can enter the level equivalent to the real monarch of the world of human monks. In this regard, the world demon is almost exactly the same as the human monk. Moreover, since the origin of the world monster is the inner world, the power of the world monster is even stronger than that of the human race monks at the same level. Of course, human cultivators possess magical tools and various secret techniques, which is incomparable to world monsters. This, in general, after the world demon and the human cultivator reached the nascent soul stage, the difference in basic strength was very small. Facing Fei Chengshi's doubts, Qin Daoxian briefly explained to her. So, this demon court envoy is very likely to be a world realm demon master. Well, you thought about it with me. Qin Daoxian nodded. The two of them did not expect that they had planned to secretly recover the small Qingqiu demon kingdom, but they encountered a powerhouse of the same level. I just don't know what layer of the world is this envoy of the demon court, Qin Daoxian thought for a while. No matter how many layers it is in the world, it's not the 3rd layer in the world, right? Impossible. Fei Qinxue shook her head. On the 3rd floor of the world, it is necessary for the monks to recreate the earth's feng shui and fire to recreate the vitality of the world. Let's not talk about the sun in the Shenhuang world. With your current cultivation level, you can't solve it at all. This is the same for demon lord level world demons. Concubine Chengshi's meaning is very straightforward. The 3 layers of the world are all the realms of the Tao that can only be touched by the Yuanshan Daojun. From ancient times to the present, I have never heard of any nascent soul cultivator who can reach the 3rd level of the world realm. Actually, there are only a handful of nascent soul cultivators who can reach the 2nd floor of the world realm. The reason is very simple. Generally, after reaching the 1st level of the world realm, Yuan-Ying cultivators are qualified to break through the Yuanshan stage. At this time, the Yuan-Ying cultivator will definitely choose to break through the Yuanshan stage with all his strength, instead of suppressing his cultivation, to promote the Dao realm to the 2nd layer of the world realm. Because compared to breaking through to the 2nd floor of the world, breaking through to the primordial spirit stage first, both in strength and life essence, will be greatly improved. Moreover, once the cultivator becomes the Yuanshan Daojun, he will soon be able to raise the Dao realm to the 2nd layer of the world realm or even the 3rd layer of the world realm. This is not at all difficult to decide. For almost all nascent soul cultivators, if they have the opportunity to break through their cultivation, they will definitely choose to give priority to breaking through their cultivation, rather than suppressing their cultivation and breaking through the realm of the Great Tao. Like Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue, the cultivation base is only in the nascent soul stage or even the golden core stage, but the Tao realm has reached the 2nd level of the world realm, which is very rare. In addition to his amazing talent, Jiang Qingye can do this, and there is another important reason. He is a member of the Jiang family of the ancient immortal clan. If it weren't for this, Jiang Qingye's talent alone would not be comparable to Qin Zhan and Fei Qinxue, let alone Qin Daoxian. After listening to Fei Chengshi's words, Qin Daoxian's heart relaxed slightly. As long as it's not a demon master on the 2nd floor of the world, it's fine. Although Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue joined forces, they would not be afraid of the demon master on the 2nd floor of the world, but it was almost impossible to capture it. Capturing a strong man of the same level alive is much more difficult than beheading the opponent. The purpose of Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue was to secretly control the four major demon kingdoms, not to let the demon court find out that there were cultivators in the real demon world. If the demon court envoy is released, Qin Daoxian's next plans will be in vain. Qin Daoxian had to guard against this. Too late will cause chaos, let's do it together. It is good. Fei Qinxue nodded. She knows that now is not the time to hesitate, so she will take down the demon court messenger first. In the hideous and terrifying world demon lair. A terrifying existence, one by one, is sitting in the spacious hall, eating and drinking. It's just that the food they eat and drink is simply appalling in the eyes of the human race monks. Below, the demons of the Qingxiu Demon Fox clan put each young woman into a stone bowl with a diameter of about 10 feet. In front of this stone bowl sits a monster with wings on its back and a pointed mouth with golden eyes. This is a Jinpeng World monster. Jinpeng World Demon watched the stone bowl gradually fill with food, and his face gradually showed impatience. It raised its head, looked at the king of Qingxiu who was sitting in its starting position, and snorted coldly, "The king of Qingxiu, have you considered it?" The envoy ceases his anger. The lord of the Qingxiu demon kingdom kept his attitude low. "I'm blunt, although the demon court is powerful now, it is not a simple matter to unify the real demon world, and there must be countless demon nations opposed to this matter." "Nonsense, if there is no objection from the demon kingdom, do you think this seat still needs to come to you as a lobbyist in person?" Having said that, the Jinpeng World Demon saw that the stone bowl in front of him was filled with blood, and immediately stretched out his golden claws, grabbed the corner of the stone bowl and lifted the entire stone bowl. In the stone bowl, at least hundreds of young women were swallowed by it. These hundreds of human race women, the closer they got to the corner of its mouth, as if they had been subjected to a reduction technique, they became the size of sugar pills, and were swallowed by the Jinpeng monster. After eating hundreds of human women in one bite, the Jinpeng World Demon slapped his mouth in satisfaction, and his expression finally relaxed a bit. See? The king of Qingxiu looked happy and immediately scolded a demon king who was serving by the side. "Is the blood food you prepared for the ambassador ready?" This. The demon king was stunned when asked. "Qitong commander is in charge of this matter, and his subordinates will rush it." Having said that, he hurried to the outside of the hall. Before he could step out of the hall, a dark gray flame passed through its chest. Immediately afterwards, its fleshy body, which was comparable to the blood-dripping realm, melted little by little. Yu, the demon king, looked at the two human monks in front of him in horror, and wanted to open his mouth to say something, but found that he couldn't even say a complete sentence. "God is dead." Oh. In the main hall, the Qingxiu king suddenly stood up. But when it saw Qin Daoxian and concubine Qinxue, the expression on its face changed suddenly. World realm real monarch. The Qingxiu demon nation is a long way from Liangjiyuan, and it is extremely difficult and dangerous for human cultivators to fly all the way from the battlefield outside Liangjiyuan. The only possibility is that these two came through the Wangxinghai passage. The demon lord Qingxiu carefully looked at Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue, and desperately searched for a strong man in the sea of stars who could match these two. A long time, King Qingxiu stretched out a finger, pointed at concubine Qinxue, and said tremblingly, You are the sect master of Qianyuan sword sect?" Concubine Qinxue was not surprised when she saw that the other party recognized her. There are only a few of Wanxinghai's top true monarch-level powerhouses. Since Qianyuan Jianzong can penetrate the four major demon kingdoms, the demon masters and kings of the four major demon kingdoms can naturally collect information on the powerhouses of Wangxinghai. It's just that compared to the intelligence work of the Qianyuan sword sect Shadow Hall, the intelligence of the four demon nations is far behind. So much so that the king of Qingxiu only recognized Fei Qinxue, but knew nothing about the young cultivator beside her. The only thing it is certain is that this young monk is not Qin Zhan. Because it knew Qin Zhan and had played against each other, the young male cultivator in front of him was obviously not Qin Zhan. Who is he holding? Just when the king of Qingxiu was in shock, another demon king in the hall had a turbulent wave in his heart at this moment. "Jillian, what's wrong with you?" A beautiful woman turned her head and asked. This glamorous woman is also sitting on a huge stone bench. Obviously, this is also a demon master-level powerhouse from the Qingxiu demon nation. At this time, Fei Qinxue came in person. Although Qi Lin felt nervous, she was not too frightened. Because she knows that the Jinpeng demon lord in the hall is also a world realm demon lord, and in terms of strength, it is not inferior to the world realm true monarch. Speaking of which, their Qingxiu demon nation has a really good luck. If there is no demon court messenger here today just relying on their few demon masters, if they want to survive under the hands of the Qinyuan sword sect master, I am afraid they will not be able to do it. No, nothing. Qi Ling hurriedly lowered her head, her heart beating violently. She originally thought that what happened in the true immortal origin realm was just a nightmare for her, but she did not expect that the nightmare is now chasing after her. Moreover, the strength of her master has improved too fast. You must know that due to her and Qi Tong's great deeds, she was rewarded with a lot of treasures by the Qingqiu king, which raised her strength to the realm of a demon king. But it's only been so many years, and the change in the master's strength is many times better than her and Qi Tong. Thinking of this, Qi Ling couldn't help trembling. But under the influence of the soul imprint, Qi Ling became calm again, and felt that Qin Daoxian was extremely kind. Compared to Qin Daoxian, the ancestor Jilin in front of her was her enemy. The scarlet-scaled demon king couldn't care about Qiliang. After she asked Qiliang casually, she focused all her thoughts on the field. On the field. Demon Lord Jinpeng stood up abruptly, his gloomy eyes first glanced at Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue. Then without saying a word, he turned around and ran away. "Wanna run?" Qin Daoxian sneered. The next moment, I saw a spherical array of light curtains, covering the entire radius of 100 miles. 7th order mid-grade formation method. 19 palaces must be formed for a moment. As soon as he made his move, Qin Daoxian took out the magic weapon that he pressed at the bottom of the box. Aside, Fei Chengshu's movements were not slow at all, and she directly took out a golden bronze bell. It is the treasure of Qianyuan Jianzong's Jinzong, the Emperor Yu Bell. A 7th order mid-grade magic weapon, and a pure yang fairy weapon. This demon master, who was only at the first level of the world, suddenly showed despair in his eyes. Less than half a cup of tea. The Jinpeng demon lord was trapped in a space cage by Qin Daoxian. On the periphery of this space cage is a miniature star kendo map, and around the star kendo map, there is also a fan price formation flag, which is the array flag of the Jiogong Shui formation. The triple suppression, the Jinpeng demon lord, was stubbornly suppressed in the space cage. Fei Qinxue looked at the space cage with Qin Daoxian's palm like a glass ball, and the doll-like figure of the Jinpeng demon master in the space cage and asked, "What are you going to do with it?" Qin Daoxian thought for a while. "First lock it in the Shenhuang realm." "Fine." Fei Qinxue also knew that now is not the time to kill this demon court messenger, at least not now. As a result, the Jinpeng demon master must know a lot of information about the demon court. Second, Qin Daoxian was worried about killing the other party. Although the world demon is not good at refining magic tools, it is not difficult to make magic tools such as soul cards. Qin Daoxian didn't believe that Yaoting was so powerful that he didn't even have the soul card of the messenger sent out. Suppressing the only world realm demon lord on the field, the remaining 4 demon lords, only Qingqiu country lord is the top true monarch level, and the other demon lords only have the strength of the late nascent soul. With this power, in front of Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue, there was not even a little room for resistance, and he was directly captured by the two of them. In the territory of the Qingqiu Demon Kingdom, plus the Qingqiu Kingdom Lord, there are a total of 4 demon lords, all of which are being swept away by Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue. Deprived of the 5 senses. Seeing Qin Daoxian trapping the 4 demon masters with space cages, Fei Qinxue simply performed a secret technique called deprivation of the 5 senses. First suppressed by the space cage and then deprived of the 5 senses. The 4 demon masters of the Qingqiu demon nation were instantly cut off from all connections with the outside world. As long as Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue do not let go of the restrictions, these 4 can only sink forever in the dark. After suppressing a world realm demon master, a top demon master and 3 ordinary demon masters, Qin Daoxian did not intend to let other realm monsters in the hall go. The dark gray flame is like an elf, jumping continuously on the monsters. Every time it jumps, a flame is ignited out of thin air. What? Don't want. For a while, screams continued in the hall. One after another flames burned out of thin air, and then the dark gray flames burned all the demons into nothingness. Finally, this dark gray flame hovered in front of a demon fox with 3 tails and a face very similar to a human woman. This demon fox woman is Qi Ling, owner. Qi Ling knelt down trembling. The fear in her heart was 3 points better than Qi Tong. 7017K. Chapter 419. Xinhuang World. 2 white figures suddenly appeared. Fei Qinxue raised her head, looked at this barren world and said, This is the world you created? Okay, Qin Daoxian nodded. I didn't have enough spiritual knowledge in Dao domain back then, and the world I created was inherently a little narrow, but it made you laugh at Shui Air. Fei Qinxue shook her head. The inadequacy of the world can be supplemented by the power of good fortune. This is nothing but it. Fei Qinxue stretched out a finger and pointed to several laws in the high sky entangled with each other. The formation of the illusory sun. The sun star is the core of a world. If you want to repeat the feng shui fire and recreate the vitality of the world, it is necessary to turn it from virtual to real. Speaking of this, Fei Qinxue smiled. Of course, these will have to be considered after your cultivation has reached the primordial spirit stage. Qin Daoxian smiled casually. Let's go and see our guest. It is good. The most central position of the Xianhuang realm. A Jinpeng world demon with a wingspan of dozens of feet was stubbornly suppressed. Around Jinpeng, a star map kept spinning, and around the star map, there were several array flags. At this moment, the Jinpeng world demon has recovered its true body. Seeing the arrival of Qin Daoxian and the two Jinpeng world demons' golden pupils showed a brutal and bloodthirsty look. Human monks, you are all dead. The Jinpeng world demon confronted Qin Daoxian through space barriers and layers of suppression. If we die, fellow Taoists don't have to worry about it. Qin Daoxian looked at it indifferently. It's you, fellow Taoist, do you want to take a walk on the Demon Slayer platform? Hearing the words Monster Slayer Terrace, Jinpeng world demon suddenly changed color. The Demon Slayer Terrace is Xingtai in Tianzhuan City, a place with a dignified reputation for slaughtering world demons. For countless years, in the extraterritorial battlefield of Liangjiuan, I don't know how many world demons have been captured and killed on the demon-slaying platform. Human cultivator, even if I die, Yaoting will not let you go. The demon court? Qin Daoxian sneered. Yaoting, a little Jindan cultivator, really can't afford to provoke me, but you, a world realm demon lord, can represent Yaoting? Hearing this, the Jinpeng world demon suddenly changed color. Indeed, in front of the lord of the Qingqiu demon kingdom, it is indeed the envoy of the demon court, but in fact, the Jinpeng world demon knows his own affairs. Where is it, the special envoy of Yaoting? It is just an insignificant demon lord level world demon under Yaoting. With its strength, it doesn't even have the right to speak in the demon court. This time, it ran all the way, privately recruiting major demon countries, and just wanted to make merits in exchange for resources to advance to the cultivation base. Seeing that his mind was seen through by Qin Daoxian, the Jinpeng world demon admitted and said, Human monk, what do you want to catch me but not kill? Tell me about the demon court. Don't think about it. The Jinpeng world demon said bitterly, Even if I die, I will never betray the demon court. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian and concubine Qinxue looked at each other. The next moment, countless space-sharp blades slashed towards the wings of the Jinpeng world demon. Ding ding ding. Accompanied by a crisp sound, the Jinpeng world monster giggled strangely. Human monk, are you tickling this seat? Seeing this, Qin Daoxian couldn't help frowning. The fleshly body is too strong and he has no good means of criminal law for a while. If you attack with all your strength, you can injure or even kill it, but this process is too fast and will not cause much pain to it, so it will not achieve the purpose of torture. Seeing that Qin Dao's profound skills were poor, concubine Qinxue on the side stepped forward and said, Let me try it. It is good. Qin Daoxian stepped aside and signaled the opponent to do something. Concubine Qinxue kept pinching the spirit art with her hands, and after a full incense stick she softly said, 5 thunders devouring the heart curse. I saw a flash of thunder light flashing from her hand, and then the thunder light jumped onto the Jinpeng world demon and disappeared. Just when Qin Daoxian thought that this method was ineffective against the Jinpeng realm demon, the other party broke out with a heart-piercing scream. This? Qin Daoxian stared blankly at concubine Qinxue. Fei Qinxue explained with a smile. This is the 5 thunders heart-devouring mantra of the Shadow Palace, which is a kind of secret technique of attacking the soul. The most amazing thing about this technique is that it does not confront the enemy's consciousness head-on, but uses the lightning secret technique. Attack the enemy spirit. Of course, the biggest disadvantage of this method is that the preparation time is too long, so it cannot be used in the fighting method, and can only be used to extract confessions by torture. Qin Daoxian nodded. It will take a stick of incense to cast the 5 thunders of the heart-devouring mantra. Which of the cultivators is not between lightning and flint, who can stand there still and let you do it? While the two of them were talking, Jinpeng world demon couldn't hold it anymore. The golden pupils began to dilute gradually, which was a sign of the collapse of the soul. Not good. Hurry up. Qin Daoxian hurriedly said. Fei Chenxue hurriedly pinched the magic art and put away the secret art. About half a cup of tea, the Jinping world demon regained consciousness. It's just that compared to the arrogance just now, the breath of the Jinping world demon has declined many times at this moment, and it looks like it's dying. Hey 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 little human doll, there is a kind of, you kill me. Seeing the other party so arrogant, Qin Daoxuan's brows and hearts beat wildly. Concubine Chenxue also frowned, and I have to say that this beast is not only cruel, but also has a very hard mouth. Neither Fei Chenxue nor Qin Daoxian had ever specifically practiced the secret technique of extorting confessions by torture. The Five Thunders heart-devouring mantra of Fei Chenxue Hui was learned inadvertently in the early years. As for Qin Daoxian, he doesn't even know a secret method to torture people. Because in Qin Daoxuan's view, killing people is no more than a nod to the ground. In the face of the enemy, he has always killed the account, and never thought about how to torture the opponent. This time he finally realized another deficiency in himself. Fortunately, learning new techniques may be quite exhausting for other monks, but for Qin Daoxian, it is just something that can be done with a little bit of savvy stardust. Not to mention that he and Chenyuan Jianzong are joining forces to attack the real demon world, even if there is no such thing, just relying on the Jiyuanzu and Chenyuan Jianzong's inventory, he is not worried about the understanding of Xingqian. You must know that there are tens of millions of Jiyuan beads in his storage ring that have not been used up. Seeing that the other party was stubborn, Qin Daoxian waved his hand, and the space cage that suppressed the Jinping world demon shrank for a while, and the Jinping world demon kept shrinking in size. In the end, the space cage became the size of a glass bead, and the Jinping world demon sealed it like an amber. Caw. Qin Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Lang doesn't have to mind. With this stubborn cultivation base, even if he is willing to reveal the information of the demon court, it must be very limited. Since it is stubborn and ineffective, it is better to send it directly to the demon-slaying platform and kill it. The demon-slaying platform is the altar specially set up by the heavenly venerates of the Phoenix Meteor Realm to kill the demons of the world. On the one hand, it is to deter the demons on the battlefield outside the two realms. On the other hand, it is also because of killing some sensitive world monsters such as the current demon court messenger. As the demon of the demon court, if an ordinary cultivator kills it, it will inevitably be revenged by the demon court. The status of Jinping world demon is not considered noble, and even if Qin Daoxian kills the opponent, the probability of causing trouble is very low. But if he is caught by Qin Daoxian, what if he is a direct descendant of the Lord of the Demon Court? Did he kill or not kill? At this time, the Monster Slayer platform can play a role, because the biggest use of the Monster Slayer platform is to not account for cause and effect. All right. Qin Daoxian nodded slowly, let's go see those guys. After all, the barren land under their feet changed for a while, and Qin Daoxian and the two came to a hill where the king of Qingqiu and other world monsters were imprisoned. Looking at the 4 demon master-level demons buried deep in the hills, Qin Daoxian waved his hand. Next moment, the hills burst and 4 glass bead-like space cages flew out. The space cage the size of a glass bead swelled in the wind, and in a blink of an eye, it returned to its normal size. Looking at the 4 demon masters of the Qingqiu demon kingdom in front of him, Qin Daoxian turned his head and said, "Trouble you." Concubine Chenxue smiled slightly, and immediately held the spirit art and put away the technique of deprivation of the 5 senses. As the 5 senses recovered, the 4 demon lords, including the lord of the Qingqiu demon kingdom, immediately regained consciousness. All the demon masters raised their heads one after another, glanced at the gray and barren world, and immediately realized where they were. World Realm Cultivator. The king of Qingqiu demon kingdom looked at Qin Daoxian with complicated eyes. He knew that the world they were in was created by the young monk in front of him. I didn't expect that in addition to the suzerain, Chenyuan Jianzong actually hides a world powerhouse like you. Seeing that the other party did not recognize him, Qin Daoxian did not explain. After all, the last time the two met, he was still a nobody hiding among thousands of Wanxinghai cultivators, and it was normal for the other party not to recognize him. Stop talking nonsense, King Qingqiu. Let me ask you, would you like to cooperate with me? The king of Qingqiu sneered. Cooperation? I don't know how you want to cooperate. Give up the resistance of divine sense and let me plant a soul imprint. King Kinkia's face suddenly changed, he glared angrily and shouted, "You want me to be your slave, never mind." Qin Daoxian nodded and said indifferently, "If you don't want to, then die." After all, in front of the Qingqiu king, a small golden sword appeared out of thin air. Fei Chengshi's eyes were so vicious, she recognized at a glance that each of these 9 golden swords was formed by the fusion of at least 3 laws, and the degree of fusion of the laws was extremely high, at least 70%. Even she felt a fatal threat from these golden swords. And this is the change in attacking moves after Qin Daoxian broke through to the 2nd floor of the world realm, or in other words before he broke through the world realm. Qin Daoxian can at most combine the 3 laws of air, water and fire, and the degree of fusion of the laws is only about 70%. The concrete manifestation is that the 3 laws of emptiness, water and fire merge into a golden giant sword. After reaching the 2nd level of the world realm, Qin Daoxian's mastery of the types and degrees of laws has not only improved, but most importantly, his mastery of the fusion of laws has become increasingly proficient. Compared with before breaking through to the world, the two are completely different. For example, the 9 golden swords he is currently displaying, each of which is formed by the fusion of 3 different laws, and the degree of fusion exceeds 90%. This level of attack is already comparable to that of an ordinary 2nd-level real monarch of the world. During the battle with Jianghu, the opponent commented that Qin Daoxian had more than enough defense and insufficient attack. After such a long time, although Qin Daoxian has been focusing on the cultivation body, his exploration of the realm of the Tao, especially the fusion of laws, has not stopped. In particular, Qin Daoxian has the comprehension star dust as the backing, and comprehends the mystery of the fusion of laws, which is far from what other world real monarchs can match. This was also the reason why Fei Qinxue was shocked. If it was said that when she was fighting with Jiang Qingye she still had confidence in Qin Daoxian, but now she feels that she has no confidence in Qin Daoxian at all. The speed of Qin Daoxian's strength improvement is too fast. After all the calculations, it is only more than a year away from gambling with Jiang Qingye. At this time, for other nascent soul monks, even a single retreat is not enough, but Qin Daoxian's progress has been so great. Say it, no one will believe it. Looking at the husband-in-law she personally chose beside her, Fei Chengshi's beautiful eyes could not help flashing a hint of admiration. Mu Chang is human nature, especially women. The golden sword flashed like golden lightning. In an instant, King Qingxiu was cut into nothingness by 9 golden swords. Aside. The other 3 demon masters were so frightened that they did not dare to breathe when they saw that the most powerful King Qingxiu was killed. Qin Daoxian walked to the 2nd demon master. The demon master looked at Qin Daoxian, raised his head and just wanted to speak. The sword light flashed and the 2nd demon master died. Qin Daoxian did the same and walked to the 3rd demon master. The 3rd demon master's mentality completely collapsed and he shouted, "Surrender, I surrender. Don't kill me. I am willing to plant a soul mark." "Knight," Qin Daoxian said coldly. Next moment, facing the desperate gaze of the demon master, the 9 golden swords cut it into nothingness again. Until Qin Daoxian walked to the 4th demon master. Before he could do anything, a transparent demon fox spirit stood on top of Jilin's head. As for herself, she knelt down on the ground and didn't even dare to lift her head, she just begged for mercy tremblingly. "I beg Shangxian to spare her life." "You are wise." Qin Daoxian snorted coldly. Looking at the transparent demon fox spirit in front of him, he immediately used the soul seal secret technique to plant a soul seal on its spirit. After a stick of incense, the red-scaled demon fox completely turned into a human woman, standing in front of Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue, and said on her knees, "Little demon Qiscale has seen the master and mistress." Hearing the name Jilin, Qin Daoxian was slightly startled. Because of this name it sounds exactly like Qi Ling, another of his spiritual pets. Hearing Qin Daoxian's doubts, Qi Lin hurriedly explained, "Master Qi Ling is a descendant of my bloodline. In the Qingxiu Demon Kingdom, in addition to the Qingxiu Kingdom Lord, there are 3 major bloodlines and I am the ancestor of one of the bloodlines." Hearing this explanation, Qin Daoxian nodded. Feeling that he has just destroyed the Lord of the Qingxiu Demon Kingdom and the ancestor of the 3 major bloodlines, and there is only one left. If Qin Daoxian no longer intervenes, it is foreseeable that the demise of the Qingxiu Demon Nation is only a matter of time. However, he did so much effort not to destroy the Qingxiu Demon Nation. Although the current Qingxiu Demon Nation is broken and its strength is greatly reduced, its status as a demon force still makes Qin Daoxian very moved. He turned his head to look at Fei Qinxue and said, "One of the 4 big demon kingdoms has been won, and there are still Deyuan Lion Camel and Jie Demon Kingdom. Deyuan and Lion Camel Demon Kingdom, the Shadow Palace has a lot of deep arrangement. I can leave this matter to Qinjian to handle, As for the extremely night demon country concubine Qinshue thought for a while, let Qin Zhan do it together. All right. Qin Daoxian nodded. Without the threat of the Shenqing Dao League, the four major demon kingdoms would not be able to turn any waves in front of Qinyuan Jianzong. Not to mention Qinyuan Jianzong. Even Qin Daoxian was alone, and he was confident enough to attack the four demon kingdoms one by one. After discussing the matter of the four demon kingdoms, Qin Daoxian looked at Qi Lin again and asked, "Let me ask you, how many resources are there in the Qingqiu demon kingdom?" "Refining resources?" Qi Lin was stunned for a moment, but quickly reacted, "Master, in the Qingqiu demon nation, there are 6 large blood crystal mines, 1 medium-sized blood marrow mine, and 1 miniature black crystal mine." "So might." Qin Daoxian said in surprise. Of course he knew that the black crystal, or in Jilin's mouth, was an agglomeration of indestructible true meaning. "You know, this is a whole black crystal mine, far from the 17 boxes of black crystals that Qin Daoxian seized from Jinyuan Jinjuan." "Do you know the specific reserves of these deposits?" This Qi Lin was a little dumbfounded. She really didn't know that. Refinement resources are extremely precious to human monks, but to the demons that's the same. The path taken by the world monsters is completely different from that of the human race monks. What they major in is only the source world within the body. In addition, their demon bodies will continue to grow stronger as the source world increases, and they don't need any body refining resources at all. Unless some world monsters have practiced special exercises. Ordinary world monsters don't need any body refining resources at all. This has resulted in the fact that the body refining resources that are rarely seen in the Phoenix Meteor realm, or have disappeared, are very abundant in the true demon realm, and even a little flooded. If not, it is impossible for a nascent soul cultivator with a near lifespan like Jin Yuanjin to collect a full 17 boxes of black crystals. Although Jilin doesn't know the specific reserves of each mineral deposit, since it can be called a large mineral deposit by Jie Yao, its reserves must be very amazing. No wonder the Jiang family can sell blood crystals in Taizhou. It turns out that there are 6 large blood crystal mines in the Qingqiu demon country opposite the Taizhou passage. With such a blood crystal, or even if the Qingqiu demon kingdom leaked a little from the nails, it would be enough to feed the Jiang family. Sure enough, war plunder is the fastest way to get rich. Moreover, war looting is faster than any looting method. The only downside is that it's not sustainable. Knowing that there are so many body refining resources, Qin Daoxian was very excited, and he hit the railway while it was hot. "Then do you have this kind of spiritual mine in Qingqiu demon state?" Talking. Qin Daoxian took out a jade slip from the storage ring and handed it to Qi Lin. Qi Lin respectfully took the jade slip and looked at it intently. Half an hour. Qi Lin raised his head and said with a cautious expression, "Master, we do not have this kind of spiritual or called Qingmu steel, but the demon kingdom of extreme night seems to have a mineral deposit that is very similar to the description of this kind of spiritual ore. It's just that it's not called Aoki steel but Shen Qingshi. Qingyugang is just a name called by the Jiang family. In the real demon world, the name is definitely different. For example, indestructible true meaning, in the real demon world, it is called black crystal. This is innocuous. As long as Qin Daoxian knows that there are indeed these resources here, that's enough. 7017K. Chapter 420. The 3 figures are blurred. Appeared again and has returned to the main hall when he came. Inside the hall, Qi Tong and Qi Ling waited respectfully. The two of them were shocked when they saw the scarlet-scaled demon lord, but then lowered their heads and dared not speak more. "See," Qin Daoxian said, "in the future the Qingqiu demon nation will be handed over to the 3 of you, and the first task after you take control of the Qingqiu demon nation is to fully exploit the blood marrow mine, the black crystal mine and the blood crystal mine." Heard. The demons looked at each other and quickly bowed. "Follow the master's law." "Okay." Qin Daoxian nodded in satisfaction. The mining of blood crystal ore is not in a hurry for the time being, because the effect of blood crystal on Qin Daoxian's cultivation of Zhu Rong's real body has been minimal. Qin Daoxian then cultivated Zhu Rong's real body, and the most consumed resources were blood marrow and black crystal. Therefore these 2 resources are mined with the highest priority. After listening to Qin Daoxian's orders, Qi Lin's face on the side was a little hesitant, as if there was something unspeakable. Seeing that her demeanor was wrong, Qin Daoxian said calmly, "Qi Lin, do you have any questions?" "Red scales dare not." The scarlet-scaled demon lord hurriedly lowered his head. "It's just that there is only one demon lord left in my Qingqiu demon nation. I'm afraid. What's next?" You don't have to worry about it, I have my own considerations. Yes, master. Hearing Qin Daoxian say this, Qilin stopped talking immediately. Finished the affairs of the Qingqiu demon nation. Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue took the spirit boat and embarked on the road back to Wangxinghai. On the spirit boat, Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue sat opposite each other. I didn't expect that the mighty Qingqiu demon nation was so vulnerable back then. The Qingqiu demon nation, which used to feel extremely powerful, could also be destroyed with a single hand. Hearing Qin Daoxuan's sigh, Fei Qinxue nodded and said, "The stronger the cultivator is, the more different he will see things. You have this feeling because your cultivation time is short." Speaking of this, Fei Chengshi's eyes were bent into crescent shapes, and she said with a smile, "So I have to say my husband-in-law is really amazing." For the first time, Qin Daoxian saw the always serious concubine Qinxue, showing such a little woman's attitude in front of him, and his mouth became dry for a while. He turned his face, coughed lightly and changed the subject. "By the way, Shuer, what happened when you said that the sun star in the Xianhuang realm changed from fiction to reality?" See Qin Daoxian deliberately changing the topic. Fei Qinxue smiled even happier. She couldn't help but gently moved her fair and soft toes from under the tea table to the crook of Qin Daoxuan's legs, and gently provoked him. At this moment, Qin Daoxuan's face suddenly turned red, and his breathing became a little short. Seeing his appearance, concubine Qinxue pursed her lips and smiled, as if nothing had happened. She retracted her little feet as if nothing had happened, and said, "The change of the sun star in the Xianhuang realm from the virtual to the real is the key to breaking through the third layer of the world realm. For the monks on the second floor of the world, it has been possible to separate the yin and yang, so that the turbid air of the created world sinks, the clean air rises, and the world is divided. The key to recreating the vitality of the world is the sun star in the sky." Concubine Qinxue paused. The sun star is the source of all life energy. It illuminates everything in the world and provides all the energy needed for life. Therefore, a virtual sun star naturally cannot recreate the vitality of the world. Only by turning the sun and star from the virtual to the real, can the world be reborn. Hiss. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian couldn't help taking a deep breath. Fei Qinxue said a few words, but Qin Daoxian felt that there was a huge difference between the third layer of the world and the second layer of the world. The first layer of the world and the second layer of the world are only requirements for the understanding of the law. When it comes to the third layer of the world, it is no longer a change in the understanding of the law, but the only sun star in the world from the virtual to the real. What is a sun star? Qin Daoxian, who had studied physics in his previous life, knew that this was a terrifying celestial body that was constantly undergoing nuclear fusion. Although the current size of the Xianhuang realm cannot accommodate the sun of the previous life, it cannot be compared with the sun star of the Phoenix meteor realm. But no matter what, it is not so simple to condense a sun star from the virtual to the real. Fei Qinxue looked at Qin Daoxian, who frowned and comforted, "The third floor of the world realm is not so easy to break through. Many Yuanshan Daijins are stuck on the second floor of the world realm and cannot be deposited, let alone our Yuanying Zhen." Speaking of this, concubine Qinxue paused because she suddenly realized that Qin Daoxian was not Yuanying Zhenjuan, and the other party was actually a late Jindan cultivator. Thinking of this, Fei Qinxue couldn't help but caress her forehead with Bai Nen's little hand. "I wanted to comfort the other party but ended up hurting myself, so I stopped talking." Qin Daoxian didn't notice Fei Chengshi's abnormality, and said to himself, "Is there no shortcut to condensing the sun star? All the way to practice so far. Qin Daoxian took too many shortcuts." One of the biggest shortcuts is that the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, in the Sea of Knowledge, gives him the ability to store understanding. Relying on this ability, Qin Daoxuan's speed of enlightenment is unimaginable for ordinary people. After that, his two qi refining cultivation bases were quickly promoted, and he also relied on the two treasures of vitality essence and Xingyuan fruit, which was regarded as a shortcut. If it weren't for these two treasures, Qin Daoxian might be still in the late stage of foundation building, and he would never have risen to the late stage of Jindan in just a few decades, and he was about to break through to the nascent soul stage. Therefore, Qin Daoxian only asked this question. Originally, he just asked casually, but Fei Qinxue nodded and said, "Of course there is a shortcut." "Okay." Qin Daoxian suddenly came to the spirit. "Qin Lang, have you heard of the Golden Crow Fragment?" "Golden Crow Fragment?" Qin Daoxian frowned, a little unclear. Fei Qinxue explained, "It is rumored that there were 10 sun stars in the fairyland, also known as the 10 Golden Crows. Later, a strong man shot an arrow and blasted 9 of them. These 9 broken golden crow fragments were scattered to the endless immortals from then on. The domain has turned into the suns of the main world. You mean? Qin Daoxian pointed to the sun above his head. Is this sun also transformed by the fragments of the golden crow? Exactly. Fei Qinshue nodded. Qin Daoxian's heart suddenly stirred up stormy waves. Isn't what concubine Qinshue said about the strong shooting the sun, the story of the descendants shooting the sun in myths and legends? Just when Qin Daoxian was shocked, Fei Qinshue continued, of course you don't need to count on the golden crow fragments of the true demon realm and the phoenix meteor realm, Qin Lang. Even if it is the world opened up by the Mahayana true immortal, it is impossible to refine the golden crow fragments of these 2 main worlds. But in Liangjiuan, there are still many fragments of the golden crow left. These golden crow fragments are somewhat suitable for Qin Lang's Xianhuang realm refining. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian couldn't react. In the battlefield outside the 2 realms abyss, I don't know how many world realm powerhouses have been killed for hundreds of thousands of years. After these powerhouses who opened up the world die, they will inevitably leave the world they opened up. For countless years, most of these worlds have been desolate. Just like the real fairyland that Qin Daoxian once explored. But there are still many world relics. Not only there are a lot of treasures but also fragments of the golden crow left in them. After the golden crow fragments were scattered to the endless immortal domain, some golden crow fragments formed a master world, and some smaller golden crow fragments were scattered in the endless void all the year round. In the ancient years, the true immortals of the true demon realm and the phoenix meteor realm searched for these scattered golden crow fragments in the endless void in order to strengthen the sun star in their own world. This is the origin of the large number of golden crow fragments in the battlefield outside the 2 realms abyss. Seeing Qin Daoxian's eager expression, concubine Qinshue warmly dissuaded him. Qin Lang, you are talented. Even if you don't rely on the golden crow fragment, it will be a matter of time before you enter the 3rd floor of the world. Why go to the battlefield outside the territory to take risks? Besides, your current cultivation is only in the late Jindan stage. For you, it is important to raise your cultivation to the nascent soul stage as soon as possible. Hearing this dissuasion, Qin Daoxian pondered for a while, shook his head and said, I also hope to gradually and steadily improve my strength, but the demon court in the real demon world is about to move. By then, if the strength is not enough, then regret it, but it will be too late. Hearing this, Fei Qinshue fell silent. It stands to reason that the Qingqiu demon nation is a remote demon power in the real demon world, but even so, there are envoys from the demon court who come to recruit the Qingqiu demon nation. It can be seen how fast Yaoting moves. Although there are many demon powers in the real demon world, I don't want the demon court to rule the real demon world. However, there are real fairy-level world demons behind the demon court, and these forces of the demon country cannot resist for long in front of the demon court. Be prepared for danger in times of peace, not to mention that the Fengyun world is not so safe now. Originally, the strength of the Phoenix Meteor realm was not comparable to that of the true demon realm. Once the real demon realm was unified, the strength would even crush the Phoenix Meteor realm. At that time, the tragic phenomenon of the human race in the real demon world will inevitably reappear in the Phoenix Meteor world. Thinking of this, Fei Qinshue shuddered. Qin Lang is right, it's the concubine's lack of thought. Fei Qinshue said in a low voice. Seeing that concubine Chengshi's mood was a little low, Qin Daoxian gently held the opponent's Ro Yi and said with relief, this battle is definitely going to be fought. I just hope that before this battle between the 2 realms completely breaks out, I can make my Qin family harmonious. Qinyuan Jianzong has enough self-protection power. At least. I won't let Yaoting fish and meat. Fei Qinshue raised her head and looked at Qin Daoxian's crystal-clear eyes. She couldn't help leaning her head gently in his arms. You mean, can we win? Must be able to. Qin Daoxian raised his head, looked at the rising sun outside the spirit boat and said firmly, the spirit boat is extremely fast. After passing through the Taizhou passage, Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinshue did not continue to ride the spirit boat, but chose to use teleportation to hurry. Fei Qinshue was not proficient in the laws of space, so along the way Qin Daoxian took her to teleport. With Qin Daoxian's consciousness, he could teleport thousands of miles at most at a time. But he has other ways, and that is to use Michin Banner to teleport. Qin Daoxian used the space node left by Michin Fan and moved several times before returning to Shuanghu Island. Twin Lakes Island. Concubine Qinshue saw Qin Daoxian put away the blue Michin Banner, and said with emotion, this small banner is really convenient. With it, ordinary Yuan Ing Jinjuan may not be able to do anything. No wonder Shinjue Jinren can run so well. Listening to concubine Qinxue talking about immortal Shinjue, Qin Daoxian smiled and said, "You think me Qin Fan is convenient now? That's because we Yuan Xinghai haven't built enough space to teleport. For example, when traveling from Taizhou to Zhangzhou, if true monarch nascent soul, who is proficient in the laws of space, can use space teleportation to travel, but the vast majority of monks can only rely on the spirit boat to travel. Taizhou is hundreds of thousands of miles away from Zhangzhou, and it would take several months to travel by spirit boat. What if we build a space teleportation array between the two states? Or, if we connect all the states of Yuan Xinghai with the space teleportation formation, how strong will our control over Yuan Xinghai become?" Hearing this, Fei Qinxue couldn't help but be fascinated. But soon she shook her head because this idea was not realistic at all. If all the states in Yuan Xinghai are connected by space teleportation formations, how many space teleportation formations must be built? You must know that the Qianyuan Sword sect now only has 4 space teleportation formations in total. One of them is in the sect of Qianyuan Jianzong, and the other 3 are all in the territory of Izumo. No way, Izumo is too far away from Yuan Xinghai. Without building a large space teleportation formation, it is impossible to control this territory effectively. Even so, Qianyuan Jianzong used the power of the entire sect to build only 3 space teleportation formations. It can be seen how terrifying the consumption of resources is when building a space teleportation formation. Of course Qin Daoxian understood this. He smiled and said, "Now we have no money, but it will be different soon." When Fei Qinxue heard this, she immediately reacted, if the plan to attack the real demon world was successfully implemented. The result is probably as true as Qin Daoxian said, and soon enough resources will be available to closely connect the entire Yuan Xinghai with the space teleportation formation. By then, Qianyuan Jianzong and the Qin family's dominance over Yuan Xinghai will reach an unprecedented peak. Thinking of this, Fei Qinxue, who was originally afraid of attacking the real demon world, could not wait to take control of the 4 major demon kingdoms immediately, and then use industrial production to plunder the resources of the real demon world. Seeing Fei Qingshu's impatient appearance, Qin Daoxian knew that she was completely moved. How to firmly control the territory under his command in the hands of the sect has always been a common problem of all sect forces in the Fengyun world. The vast territory made them have to use the power of the Xiuxian family to control the territory under their command. But borrowing the power of the Xiuxian family to control the territory will face the phenomenon that the Xiuxian family's tail cannot be lost, such as the Zhangzhou Qin family. In essence, the Zhangzhou Qin family is a typical tail too big. Fortunately, Fei Qinxue used the marriage of the 2 supreme rulers to eliminate this life-and-death struggle. Although the problem of the Qin family has been solved, the problem that the Xiuxian family may not be able to solve in the future has not been completely ended. If Qin Daoxian learned about Fei Qingshu's thoughts, she would definitely find out that she was actually considering changing the feudal system of divided families into a centralized system with Zongmen as the core. If this move is successful, it will surely achieve a huge leap forward in the system. Maybe in the future, the sect and the immortal family will disappear, replaced by the immortal kingdom or the immortal dynasty. Seeing Fei Qingshu's excited appearance, Qin Daoxian laughed dumbly and said, "Okay, you said I was impatient, but you were even more impatient than me. Raiders of the real demon world must not be rushed, and the most important thing is not to let the demon garden or other demon kingdom forces find clues." "Well, I see." Fei Qinxue looked at him affectionately. "Then I will go back to the sect first and arrange for the complete control of the 4 demon kingdoms." "Okay, he'll be in charge of industrial expansion." After the 2 finished speaking, they waved goodbye over Shuanghu Island. Both of them knew that now was not the time to be gentle. Although this trip to the real demon world was short, this short time together allowed Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue to have a deeper understanding of each other's temperaments. Although he and Fei Qinxue were political marriages, they were different from the political marriages in the mortal kingdom. He and concubine Qinxue are not only the supreme rulers of the Qin family and Qianyuan Sword sect, but also possess the terrifying power of the left and right forces. Once the 2 of them are at odds, this political marriage will be a joke. It turned out that both Fei Qinxue and Qin Daoxian were very satisfied with each other. Chapter 421. Looking at the beauty who disappeared from the sky. Qin Daoxian couldn't help clenching the storage ring in his hand, and Fei Qingshu's words before leaving seemed to be in his ears. "Qin Lang, these are the only 3 Saint Yuan fruits left in the Qianyuan Sword sect. My concubine hopes that when I meet you next time, Qin Lang is already a Yuaning cultivator." Call? Qin Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief, his figure flashed and disappeared. Twin Lakes Island. Patriarch Immortal Mansion. As Qin Daoxian's cultivation place, the Patriarch's Immortal Mansion has undergone several expansions and renovations, and now it is a huge building complex covering an area of hundreds of thousands of square meters. In the Immortal Mansion, there are many palaces, and the scenery of forest gardens can be seen everywhere. What's more amazing is that in this Immortal Mansion, there are a total of 108 spiritual lakes formed by spiritual eyes embedded in it, reflecting this Immortal Mansion like a holy place of a fairy. In front of a spirit lake in the Immortal Mansion, a slender and beautiful woman wearing a tulle fairy dress is playing in the Linghu Lake. Suddenly, a figure suddenly appeared in the pavilion beside Linghu Lake. Qin Daoxian looked at the figure in the Linghu Lake and sat down on the stone bench in the pavilion by himself. In Linghu, Luo Li, who was playing in the water, finally sensed something strange. After turning his head to see Qin Daoxian, his beautiful eyes were full of joy. "Qinlang, you're back." As soon as the words fell, Luo Li jumped up from the spirit lake with a clatter. By the time her figure flew in front of Qin Daoxian, she was already dressed. The clothes Luo Li was wearing were originally a third-order magic weapon fairy clothes. This magic weapon fairy clothes was a defensive magic weapon specially developed for female cultivators by the Qin Family Magic Tool Research Institute. Although its defensive effect is not as good as spirit armor, it is more convenient to wear and has a beautiful appearance. Therefore, this kind of magic weapon fairy clothes is deeply loved by the majority of female cultivators in Wanxinghai. The only downside is that the highest rank of the magic weapon immortal clothes refined by the Qin family is only the third rank lower rank, which seems a bit tasteless to those female cultivators above Jindan. However, Luo Li was only in the Purple House period now, so it was very suitable to wear this kind of magic weapon immortal clothes refined by the Qin family. Looking at the beautiful woman in front of him who looked like a water fairy, Qin Daoxian smiled and said, "Well, miss me." Hearing this, even though Luo Li was already married to Qin Daoxian, he couldn't help but blushed slightly. She didn't speak, just walked forward quickly, hugged Qin Daoxian, buried her head deeply in Qin Daoxian's chest, and felt the other's strong heartbeat. "Liar, I want to tell you something." "Okay." Luo Li raised her head and looked at Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian looked at Luo Li's happy and innocent face, but he couldn't say what he said. Luo Li seemed to notice something, let go of the hands holding Qin Daoxian and said softly, "Qinlang, you and I are one husband and wife. If you have anything to say, just say it." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian finally made up his mind. "Liar, I want to become a Taoist companion with the sect master of Qinyuan Sword Sect." "What?" When Luo Li heard this, her first reaction was not anger but stunned. Seeing Luo Li's small mouth opening slightly with an unbelievable look on his face, Qin Daoxian said solemnly, "If you want to scold, scold me." "Who knows?" Luo Li tilted her head and said, "Why does the concubine scold you?" "This?" Luo Li's words caught Qin Daoxian a little off guard. According to common sense, when a woman hears that her other half is looking for a new love, shouldn't she jump in a hurry? Why is Luo Li's expression so calm? Just when Qin Daoxian was extremely puzzled, Luo Li said softly, "My concubine has long known that, given the current situation in Wanxinghai, the marriage between the Qin family and Qinyuan Sword Sect is inevitable, but the concubine did not expect that the marriage with Qinlang would be unexpected. Not Fairy Qi Yao but the sect master of Qinyuan Sword Sect." Speaking of this, Luo Li still had an unreal feeling. But thinking about it carefully, whether it is strength or status, my husband can be worthy of the sect master of Qinyuan Sword Sect, so I am not surprised for long. "Liar, aren't you angry?" Qin Daoxian couldn't hold back. This was not the same as Luo Li's reaction in his imagination. Luo Li caressed Qin Daoxian's cheek and said warmly, "As a woman, of course you will be angry when you hear that your husband is going to marry another woman. But as the wife of the patriarch of the Qin family, in addition to considering my own feelings, I also need to consider the thousands of cultivators in the Qin family and the larger number of ordinary people." She paused. Today's Wanxinghai, the Qin family and Qinyuan Sword Sect are the most powerful. Once the Qin family and Qinyuan Sword Sect are at odds, a war will inevitably break out between the two. "Are you worried that I will lose?" Luo Li shook his head. Qinlang has never lost, and his concubine doesn't believe that anyone in this world can defeat her husband, but the Qin family is different. Compared with the large number of disciples of the Qinyuan Sword Sect, the strength of the Qin family cultivator is still relatively high. Too weak. Except for the husband, the Qin family cannot compete with Qinyuan Jianzong in terms of comprehensive strength. If the Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzong really had a conflict, how many casualties would my Qin family cultivator have? As the wife of the head of the Qin family, I really couldn't bear to see this scene. After hearing these words, Qin Daoxian seemed to know Luo Li on the first day. He stroked Luo Li's hair and said with emotion, "Liar, you have changed." "Everyone can change." Luo Li looked at Qin Daoxian, put her small hand gently on Qin Daoxian's waist and twisted it hard, but the concubine's love for her husband has never changed. Saying that, a pair of beautiful eyes curved into a crescent moon. In order to cooperate with Luo Li, Qin Daoxian deliberately bared his teeth and looked like he was in pain. Luo Li twisted for a while and saw Qin Daoxian begging for mercy, and then she was satisfied and put away her jade hand. Qin Daoxian looked at her quietly. Luo Li said angrily, "Why are you looking at me like this?" "Nothing," Qin Daoxian smiled. "By the way, I have to retreat for a while to break through the nascent soul period." "Real?" Luo Likio's face was full of joy. "My concubine is here to wish my husband a successful baby marriage." Having said that, he gave Qin Daoxian a blessing. "Lend your auspicious words." Qin Daoxian smiled. Then he took Luo Li into his arms and whispered in her ear, "Liar, I'm sorry." "Say it." Qin Daoxian's figure disappeared in front of Luo Li. Inside the gazebo, Luo Li stood there alone, tears streaming down her face. Qin Daoxian should have removed a stone from his heart when he explained the matter of marrying concubine Qin Shui to Luo Li, but in fact, his mood was not at all relaxed. Especially when he saw the scene where Luo Li burst into tears. Quiet indoors. Qin Daoxian sat on the Wenyu futon, and a Taoist heart could not calm down for a long time. After so many years of cultivation, this is the first time for him. Although Luo Li showed great generosity in front of him, Qin Daoxian knew in his heart that he still made Luo Li sad after all. But marrying Qinyuan Jianzong is the best choice for both the Qin family and Qin Daoxian himself. Otherwise, just like Luo Li's analysis, one mountain can't hold two tigers, and there will be a battle between the Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzong. Only when the supreme rulers of the two families marry, can the Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzong be completely united. However, the only person who was hurt by this move was Luo Li. She wants to share her husband with other women. Even though Fengyun realm was different from Qin Daoxian's previous life, it practiced polygamy, and it was only natural for the strong to have as many partners as possible. But the world is different, but human nature is the same. No woman will share her other half with another woman unless she doesn't love her other half. Lori is the same. Quiet indoors. Qin Daoxian sat for 3 days, but he could not calm down. In desperation, Qin Daoxian began to recite the Hongmeng Enlightenment classic. Over and over again, Qin Daoxian didn't know how many times he recited the scriptures, and finally calmed the turbulent Dao heart. "Open your eyes again." Qin Daoxian's eyes have become clear. He immediately took out a storage ring and took out 3 jade boxes from the storage ring. The 3 jade boxes contained the famous Xingyuan fruit. Qin Daoxian had already taken one of the treasures of Xingyuan fruit before. He opened the first jade box, and it turned out to be the same as the Xingyuan fruit he had taken before. This Xingyuan fruit was 30 years old and the peel was blue. This treasure can quickly improve the cultivator's qi cultivation. Like this cyan holy fruit in his hand, it has the best effect on the Jindan cultivator. Immediately, Qin Daoxian opened the second jade box, but when he saw the second Xingyuan fruit, his face suddenly changed. Red. Qin Daoxian was shocked. It was not the cyan Xingyuan fruit of 30 years, but the red Xingyuan fruit of 300 years. You know, there are 3 kinds of Xingyuan fruit: 30 years, 300 years and 3,000 years. This 300-year-old red Saint Yuan fruit is a treasure that can quickly improve the cultivation of Yuaning cultivators. Qin Daoxian did not expect that concubine Qin Shui would actually hand over all such treasures to him. It can be seen that Fei Qin Shui regarded Qin Daoxian as her husband from the bottom of her heart, otherwise, it would never be possible to give this treasure to him. Even if Fei Qin Shui couldn't use it, wouldn't the disciples of her Qinyuan sword sect use it? Moreover, although Fei Qin Shui is the sect master of Qinyuan sword sect, she is not alone in Qinyuan sword sect. Fei Qin Shui took out such a precious treasure from the sect and handed it over to Qin Daoxian, thinking that she had to pay a small price. Qin Daoxian knew this. The value of this red holy essence fruit is completely different from the blue holy essence fruit. In the past, the Qinyuan sword sect raised its sect to help Liang Jiyuan, and among all the treasures obtained, this red Xingyuan fruit may be among the best. Qin Daoxian knew that Fei Qin Shui was able to take out this treasure for him, except that the two were about to marry and she wanted to deepen their relationship. There is another important reason, that is, The past few days of going to the real demon world, the other party already has his shadow in his heart. It is the most difficult to endure the grace of a beauty, and Qin Daoxian finally has this feeling now. They all talk about the blessings of the people of Qi, but when two women are really attracted to you, this kind of blessing may not be so easy to enjoy. Shaking his head, he threw the distracting thoughts out of his mind. Qin Daoxian opened the third jade box again. This jade box is the same as the first jade box and it contains a cyan Xingyuan fruit. 2 cyan Xingyuan fruit and 1 red Xingyuan fruit. If he takes all of them, it will not only allow Qin Daoxian to break through the nascent soul period, but also make his cultivation take a big step in the nascent soul period. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian took out another jade bottle. What this jade bottle contains is not something else. It is the 4th order elixir that assists in breaking through the nascent soul stage, the pregnancy and infant pill. Soothe the mood again. Qin Daoxian immediately took a blue Saint Yuan fruit. The blue-colored Xingyuan fruit melts in the mouth. Qin Daoxian has the experience of taking the Xingyuan fruit once. He knows that there will be a lot of special spiritual energy that will burst out of the Xingyuan fruit. It was exactly as he expected. A terrifying spiritual energy gushes out from the Saint Yuan fruit. As soon as these special auras pour into Dantian, they are transformed into golden core mana and stored in Dantian. With the continuous influx of special spiritual energy, the accumulation of Jindan mana is also getting faster and faster. Before he knew it, Qin Daoxian's cultivation level had broken through from the 8th level of the golden core to the 9th level of the golden core. Although he only broke through the first level of cultivation, and the improvement of Qin Daoxian's strength was not obvious, it made him one step closer to the nascent soul stage. After breaking through the first level of cultivation, the spiritual energy in the cyan Xingyuan fruit is far from exhausted. Qin Daoxian's cultivation continued to climb. Soon, his cultivation level climbed to the pinnacle of the 9th level of the golden core, and finally he rushed directly to the 9th level of the golden core. At this point, the spiritual energy of the cyan Xingyuan fruit has not been exhausted. You must know that last time he took a holy essence fruit, but he directly upgraded his cultivation from the early stage of Jindan to the later stage of Jindan. Compared with this terrifying improvement effect, where is this now? Qin Daoxian knew that the opportunity could not be missed, and he took the pregnant baby pill, ready to hit the nascent soul realm in one go. Qin Daoxian's Dao realm has far exceeded his cultivation base, and with the help of the cyan Xingyuan fruit and the pregnant baby pill, if he can't break through the nascent soul stage, then I am afraid that no one in this world can break through the nascent soul stage. Take it with pregnant and infant pills. Qin Daoxian found that the golden pill in his Zifu was beating slowly like a heart. Boom, boom, boom. With the strong and powerful beating of the golden core, the magic power of the golden core was continuously swallowed by Qin Daoxian's golden core. Qin Daoxian found that with every time his Jindan exhaled mana, his Jindan mana became more pure. It stands to reason that Qin Daoxian's cultivation has reached the realm of Jindan great perfection, and his Jindan mana will not continue to rise, but the fact is that his Jindan mana is still rising. Qin Daoxian, who is familiar with the classics, knows that this is a sign that the mana is about to break the bottleneck. In the process of Jindan cultivator breaking through the nascent soul stage, the first thing that began to transform was still mana. As for nascent soul, it was the last step to break out of the golden core. The duration of this process varies according to the individual situation of the monk. But there is a saying that, the more mana a cultivator can hold in his dantian, the higher his height will be after he breaks through the nascent soul stage. You must know that the height of the nascent soul is directly related to the cultivation of the monks in the nascent soul period. That is to say, if the dantian of the Jindan cultivator can hold enough mana, the cultivator might not be able to directly rise to the 2nd or even the 3rd floor of the nascent soul after breaking through the nascent soul stage. Of course, this is extremely rare. Even if it happens occasionally, it is all the result of the accumulation of cultivator Jindan. At this point, in fact, Qin Daoxian does not have much advantage. The mana stored in his dantian is actually not much compared to ordinary Jindan cultivators. The reason why Qin Daoxian showed infinite mana outside was the help of the magic weapon of creating a white lotus. Chapter 422. Twin Lakes Island. An escaped light from far to near landed in the patriarch's immortal mansion, in front of a spirit lake. Qin Daoxian lowered her escape light, looked at Luo Li in a daze in the pavilion, stepped forward quickly and said with a smile, "What are you thinking about, sister?" "What?" Luoli was startled. When she saw Chen Dalian, she forced a smile on her face, shook her head and said, "It's nothing. Why did my sister come to me today?" Chen Dalian thought that Luoli was in a low mood because the patriarch had been away from home for a long time. The beginning of the Tao? Luoli was stunned for a moment, then looked behind Chen Dalian. Did he not come? Chen Dalian waved her hand and said in a relaxed tone, "He's busy now. I'm afraid he doesn't have time to run around. No, let me be his errand." Because Chen Daoxian often retreats or is not in the clan, Chen Dalian and Luoli have been together for many years, and they have a deep relationship for a long time. In addition, the relationship between Chen Dalian and Luoli became closer after Jiang Taiyuan, the ancestor of the Jiang family, abducted the old patriarch Chen Xinhe, so they talked very casually. In the eyes of outsiders, the relationship between the two of her is not like a sister-in-law, but more like a sister. "It's a bit unfortunate that my sister came today. Chen Lang is in retreat." "Shut up again?" Chen Dalian frowned, although she had long been used to Chen Daoxian being a cultivator, but when she learned that Chen Daoxian had just returned to the family, she couldn't wait to retreat, and she still felt a little sympathetic to Luoli. Her clan brother is too incomprehensible. Every time I go out and come back, I almost never accompany Luoli but turn around and go to retreat. No wonder Luoli's expression was very low. "Sister, don't be angry, the patriarch is just focusing on his practice." Hearing this, Luoli gently took Chen Daolian's hand and said warmly, "You don't need to say it, sister, I know that. I'm not blaming Chen Lang. The Chen family is such a big family, it seems that the scenery is infinite, but all the safety is tied to Chen Lang alone, and I know how much responsibility he bears." Hearing this, Chen Dalian sighed, "My sister is so profound and righteous, it is the blessing of the patriarch and the blessing of the Chen family." "You?" Luoli scratched Chen Daolian's nose. The two laughed for a while. Luoli continued, "Actually this time Lang Chen was not in an ordinary retreat. He told me before the retreat that he was going to have a baby." "What?" Hearing this news, Chen Dalian jumped up from the stone bench in the pavilion with excitement. Her breathing couldn't help becoming rapid and she said, "Is this true?" Luoli smiled and looked at Chen Dalian without saying a word. Seeing this, Chen Dalian couldn't hold back at all, and hurriedly paced in the pavilion. Alas, for such a big matter, the patriarch actually made a decision so lightly. From Chen Daolian's point of view, Chen Daoxian breaking through the nascent soul period is the top priority of the Chen family. The entire Chen family should pay attention and mobilize as never before. But in Chen Daoxian's eyes, it seems that breaking through the nascent soul stage is no big deal. If you think about it, it does. Chen Daoxian's Tao realm has long reached the second level of the world realm. You must know that many Yuan Shindaijins have only reached the second level of the world realm. Chen Daoxian's Tao realm has long been incompatible with his cultivation. Unfortunately, Chen Daoxian's Tao realm has improved too fast, even though he has been practicing hard all these years, and even used several treasures that have been quickly promoted to refining cultivation. But his cultivation still can't keep up with his own Tao realm. However, there are some advantages in this way, that is, Chen Daoxian's combat power far exceeds his cultivation. In addition, there is another advantage, that is, there are no barriers to breaking through the cultivation base. Unlike other monks, breaking through from the Jindan stage to the nascent soul stage is all trepidation. Chen Daoxian had no such worries. The Tao realm on the second floor of the world realm gave him endless confidence. Inside the gazebo, Luoli looked at Chen Dalian, who had always been calm and anxious, and hurriedly said something to comfort him. "Sister, don't worry, I see the expression on Chen Lang's face before retreating, so I should be absolutely sure. Besides, in all these years, which time has he let us down?" Sure enough, hearing this, Chen Daolian's mood suddenly calmed down. "Sister is right, it's my sister that am too anxious." Saying that, he sat down in front of Luoli again. Seeing Chen Daolian's mood recovering, Luoli hesitated. "Sister, you and I are like sisters, just say something." Chen Daolian saw the hesitant look on Luoli's face, grabbed the opponent's jade hand gently and said softly, "Then, go set it." "Okay." Chen Daolian nodded. "Sister Daolian, what do you think of the Chen family in Shenyun Jianzhou?" Hearing this, Chen Daolian couldn't help frowning. If you want to say who is the most powerful force in Wanxinghai after recovering from the Cloud Kingdom, there is no doubt that it must be the Chenyun sword sect. Besides Qinyuan Jianzhong, Wanxinghai's second largest force is her Zhangzhou Chen family. No one doubts this. Chen Daoxian, alone, broke into the Jiang family's land in Taizhou and killed the ancestors of the Jiang family. In addition, Chen Daoxian and Qin Zhan joined forces to raid the Qingwei Taoist sect and the Tai Shui. Let Qin Daoxian become more and more famous in Wanxinghai. The entire Wanxinghai true monarch Yuan Ying is being passed on in private, and with Qin Daoxian's strength, he may be ranked among the top 3 in the entire Wanxinghai. This rating is quite high. Moreover, characters like Qin Daoxian have never appeared since Qinyuan Jianzong ruled Wanxinghai. Although over thousands of years, Wanxinghai has given birth to hundreds of Yuan Ying true monarchs who were not from the Qinyuan sword sect, but none of them can possess such terrifying strength as Qin Daoxian. This resulted in the breaking of the dominance of the Qinyuan sword sect in the Wanxinghai family. As we all know, no matter for any region, the breaking of the pattern often means the arrival of war. The reason is very simple. The inherent pattern is accompanied by the inherent distribution of interests. If the long-standing pattern is broken, new disputes of interest will inevitably arise and war will follow. After all, there is no power that can willingly hand over the interests in their hands to others. Such a simple truth, Qin Daolian, as the acting patriarch, couldn't be more clear. Seeing that Qin Daolian was silent, Luo Li sighed. You also think that there is a risk of war between the Qin family and Qinyuan sword sect, right? After a while, Qin Daolian nodded. It is true, but my Qin family has a patriarch. Even if it is Qinyuan Jianzong, my Qin family is not afraid of it. When it comes to Qin Daoxian, Qin Daolian's words have infinite confidence. In fact, for any cultivator of the Qin family, they look at Qin Daoxian the same way. In the eyes of all the Qin family cultivators, Qin Daoxian is a godlike existence. Even if the Qin family and Yuanshan Daojun or even Du Jie Tianzuan are enemies, the Qin family believes that the patriarch can create miracles. This is the prestige Qin Daoxian has built up in the Qin family over the years. Luo Li looked at Qin Daolian's confident look and smiled. That said, but the Qinyuan sword sect really broke out with the Qin family, and how many children of the Qin family have to be damaged? Hearing this, Qin Daolian stopped talking. Indeed, no matter how strong Qin Daoxian is, he is not strong enough to compete with the entire Qinyuan sword sect by himself. If the Qin family really broke out with the Qinyuan sword sect, in addition to uniting all the immortal families, they would definitely implement the strategy of temporarily retreating in the early stage. In other words, it is to break into pieces and fight guerrilla warfare with Qinyuan Jianzong. Even if the Qin family can win in the end, the clan may not survive. In this situation, Qin Daolian, as the acting patriarch of the Qin family, definitely does not want to see it. So I'm thinking, if the Qin family can marry Qinyuan Jianzong, will this war be eliminated? Marriage? Qin Daolian frowned, and then she shook her head again. With the size of the Qin family and the Qinyuan sword sect, who can get married to ease the conflict between the two families? It's not like the patriarch should marry the Qinyuan sword sect master. Speaking of this, Qin Daolian couldn't help but smile bitterly. Why not? Luo Li said softly. Sister, you mean for a time? Qin Daolian's heart was beating like thunder. If the Qin family could really marry concubine Qin Xue, then the dispute between the Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzong would disappear in an instant. Not only that, but with the talent of the patriarch. The Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzong formed an alliance, which will inevitably be dominated by the patriarch in the future. Qin Daolian never doubted this. What does Qin Daoxian lack the most? Time. It has only taken him less than 100 years to cultivate so far. In less than 100 years, he has achieved achievements that other monks may not have achieved in thousands of years. It can be said that with Qin Daoxian's talent, even if he tried several times in the entire Phoenix Meteor realm, he could not find a second one. Once the Qin family unites with Qinyuan Jianzong to form a force similar to the Shenqing Taoist alliance, is it still a sure thing that Qin Daoxian will be the leader of this force in the future? Thinking of this, Qin Daolian couldn't help but think of the two alliances in her mind. How should she place the children of the Qin family in this alliance to achieve the purpose of controlling the actual power of this alliance? Luo Li watched Qin Daolian's expression change, and sat there quietly without speaking. A long time. Realizing that the atmosphere in the pavilion was a little quiet, Qin Daolian realized that the patriarch married the sect master of Qinyuan Jianzong, and the one who suffered the most was not the one in front of him? Thinking of this, Qin Daolian couldn't help admiring Luo Li's mind. Ask yourself, if Qin Daoxian is her husband, can she make such a decision? After thinking about it for a long time, Qin Daolian shook her head. I'm afraid she can't be as generous as Luo Li, elder sister. Qin Daolian called out softly. Luo Li smiled and then changed the conversation. By the way, you said that you asked you to come to Qin Lang in the first place. Why? Seeing that Luo Li changed the subject, Qin Daolian sighed in his heart, but said, It's because of the Magic Tool Machine Tool. The Magic Tool Research Institute has already finalized the first order Magic Tool Machine Tool. Chen Daochu was organizing people from the Magical Item Research Institute to transform the Magical Item Factory in Guanhai Xianqing. Before I came here, the first phase renovation project of the Magical Item Factory had ended. So fast? A look of joy appeared on Luo Likio's face. The fact that the Chen family's Magic Tool Research Institute developed the Magic Tool Machine Tool is a top secret of the Chen family, but Luo Li, as the wife of the patriarch, naturally has the right to know this secret. As far as Luo Li knew, it had only been more than a year since the machine tool was developed, and now even the factory has been renovated. The speed is too fast. The Chen family seems to be influenced by Chen Daoxian, the powerful patriarch, and they pay great attention to efficiency in everything they do. If it wasn't for the Chen family's children who really didn't have the perverted talent of Chen Daoxian, maybe everyone's cultivation speed would be on par with Chen Daoxian. This is a strong leadership core, a positive influence on a force. It's not too fast. It's been more than a year since Chen Daochu developed the machine tool. It took so long to complete the transformation of the first phase of the magic weapon factory, which is too slow for me. Luo Li shook his head. This is something that can't be helped. There were so many first-order refiners in the previous magic tool factory, but with the emergence of new magic tools, these first-order tool refiners will probably lose their jobs. Presumably for more than a year you have been busy arranging these people? Hearing this, Chen Dalian sighed. Yes. The emergence of the Chen family's assembly line production line once made Sangzhou's desolate and impoverished scattered cultivators find a job that allows them to earn enough cultivation resources. But with the advent of the machine tool, their job was smashed by the Chen family. Despite the power of the Chen family, no one dared to say anything. But Luo Li's inner disappointment and anger could not be hard to imagine. After all, when she followed the Merman clan, the days when she wandered in the underwater world of Wangxinghai had some similarities with these scattered cultivators in Sangzhou, and everyone lived a precarious life. Even a cultivator yearns to practice peacefully in his heart. Like those loose cultivators who are afraid that the world will not be in chaos, they are very few after all. Moreover, these robbery and homeless cultivators are also lacking in resources, so they were forced to come this way. If there are enough cultivation resources, any loose cultivator's brain will be crowded by the door, and they will do these extremely risky things. When it comes to the scattered repairs in Guanhai Xianqing, Chen Dalian and Luo Li felt a little down for a while. Influenced by Chen Daoxian, both Chen Dalian and Luo Li treat those loose cultivators at the bottom of the cultivation world with a kind heart. Unlike other cultivators of the immortal cultivation clan, their gazes upon loose cultivators were all filled with disdain and contempt. This point, the loose cultivator of Guanhai Xianqing can also feel that the cultivator of the Chen family is very different from the cultivator of other cultivator families. Speaking of which, in Wanxinghai, the only two forces who can treat loose cultivators with this attitude are the Qinyuan sword sect and the Chen family. As for other forces, even true monarch Yuanqin, who came from a loose cultivator, could not treat the loose cultivator with such a generous and peaceful attitude. Quiet indoors. A white figure sat on the Wenyu futon. At this moment, in Chen Daoxuan's closed room, a violent beating sound echoed in the room. Boom, boom, boom. As time passed, it seemed as if the heart beat faster and faster. In Dantian, the golden core continued to expand, and then clustered and shrunk again and again. Time passed little by little. Blink of an eye. Half a year has passed. Boom. On this day, Chen Daoxuan's Dantian exploded. I saw a figure like a baby, as if a life emerged from the shell, drilled out of the broken golden core. With the Yuanying drilled out from the Jindan. The broken golden core quickly merged into Yuanying's body. Chen Daoxian saw that each piece of Jindan was integrated into Yuanying, and Yuanying's height increased by 1 point. In the end, Chen Daoxuan's nascent soul grew from an inch to an inch and a half, and then it slowly stopped. Looking at Yuanying in his Dantian, Chen Daoxian found that this Yuanying's face was exactly the same as his. Is this the Yuanying? Chen Daoxuan's consciousness sank, and he found that his consciousness actually appeared in Yuanying. Afterwards he looked at his own Dantian Qi-Si. This was the first time for him to look at Dantian Qi-Si and Zifu from the perspective of nascent soul. This feeling is very special. It was as if his Dantian purple mansion was an immortal mansion standing on the sea of mana. And his nascent soul, who usually lives in the purple mansion in Dantian, can easily control the sea of mana below. Break through to the nascent soul period. Chen Daoxuan's first feeling was that he was strong. This kind of power is different from the power brought by the Tao realm and various instruments in the previous Jindan period. This is a kind of pure power of its own. Besides, Qin Daoxian also felt that his lifespan had skyrocketed, reaching 3,000 years of lifespan just like other Yuanyin true monarchs. As for other aspects, Qin Daoxian has not had time to feel it yet, because he knew that the people outside the secret room had been waiting for him for a long time. 7017K. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.